Chapter 649, How Michael Became Ghost Eye. Almost 20 years ago on Earth, the Browning Street was emptier than usual due to all the riots in the nearby city. Buildings on the weather side of the Browning Street looked worn out, as though they would collapse any second. It had been a couple of decades since a building got new paint. The paved stone streets were all broken and messed up. As a result, the streets had more puddles than gray stones. Due to the high crime rate in this part of the city, the street was void of any taxis or crowds. Except for a couple of junkies in the dark alley, there was no one. Despite the afternoon time, the Browning Street looked gloomy because of the dark storm clouds above. The lines of buildings on either side were built to put as many people as possible within. Thus, the architecture looked like buildings made of matchboxes, no style and no class. They were built to reduce the slum population. In one of those buildings, painted with white but now turned gray, a man wearing a fedora looked down the street from the 20th floor. The man was way out of place as he wore a black tuxedo, Oxford shoes, a black tie and a fedora hat. He was neither too young nor too old, probably mid-30s or early 40s. His stubble beard and hazel eyes gave him a friendly charm to any strangers to trust him. He looked at the street below where an old man was lying in a pool of blood. His arms and legs looked crooked as his head was mangled by hitting the ground with such force. Another one down, the man wearing the fedora smiled. He took out a notebook from his inner coat pocket and crossed a name off the list with a pencil. After putting the notebook and the pencil inside, he turned around and left the balcony. Silence fell over the Browning Street. Even up to this moment, no one had seen the dead body lying in the street. The junkies hiding in the dark alley were busy snorting white powder. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. Eventually, the man climbed down all the 20 stairs to the ground level. He threw one last look at the dead body before disappearing into one of the dark alleys. To an oblivious man, the man fell from his balcony and died. But only a few knew that it was an assassination. The dead man was a CEO of a pharmaceutical company who was living in the Browning Street until he could leave the country. He committed various frauds and pissed off too many powerful people. When these powerful people want a certain someone to disappear, they would call a shadow organization known as the Underworld. It was a glorified name for a society full of criminals, assassins and drug kingpins. Since the CEO had his own special force people guarding him in what he thought was a safe house, the Underworld put their best to work. Spectre. He was the deadliest assassin in the world. Once someone ends up on Spectre's hit list, no one can save them, not even the most powerful law enforcement. After killing his target, Spectre calmly walked down the dark alleys. He always felt the need to do something else after an assassination. He called this feeling post-murder tension. Normally he would take a long walk, go to a park or visit some exclusive escorts. I am getting bored, Spectre stretched his muscles. Not only physically but he was also mentally exhausted. When he took out his first target he was 15 years old. It had been 30 years since he entered the assassination business. The spark of killing people once he had slowly dimmed out. But he knew very well that there was no retirement for an assassin like him. There would be always more people who need killing, and the clients always liked to work with the best. The Underworld was not a place he could go and sign out his retirement. The second best assassin could always try to end him so they could become the number one. The best way he could come up with was getting a disciple, a murdering protege, or a group of prodigies, train them and let them do his work. That way Spectre could sit back and enjoy his life a bit. He would be 40 next month and it would take at least a decade for him to train someone. Unfortunately, there wasn't a place to get prodigies with murdering brains. He wanted someone young, someone who didn't fear the strong, and someone who would be willing to kill without blinking an eye. As he was pondering about his future, he heard a commotion nearby. His ears twitched. Usually, Spectre wouldn't poke his nose into where it doesn't belong. But for some reason he felt curious. What the heck? Spectre shrugged and followed the sound of the commotion. After taking several steps, he reached a corner. He peeked around the corner, standing in the darkness to see a group of men beating the life out of a young kid. The men showed no mercy to the kid. The poor kid looked like he was 10 or 9. He was skin and bones as though he hadn't eaten in weeks. Little twat asking for more than he deserves. What did we tell you about taking this route, huh? This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. The men yelled at the kid without taking a break from kicking the kid. But despite their beating, the kid didn't cry. Instead, he curled into a ball, covering his face and abdomen as though he was used to getting beaten. If we see you in this route again, I will choose one of those little bitches and put the product in their bellies. Got it? A bald, burly man with a body full of tattoos spat on the kid. If Spectre wanted, he could beat the crap out of the three of them in a few minutes. Normally, he would have because it was a good outlet for post-murder tension. Even if Spectre killed them, no one would bat an eye. What? Because they all had a black mamba tattooed on their necks. As a dweller of the underworld, Spectre knew every criminal organization there is. This particular gang specialized in drug and weapons trafficking. As far as law enforcement considered, these guys did not exist. They had no passport, no identity card, or any bank accounts in their names. Suppose Spectre killed them, the gang would clear the body and evidence for him because the last thing they would do was seek the help of the police. However, Spectre did not do such a thing. Instead, his focus was on the little kid on the ground. After such a beating, a grown man would cry, let alone a 9-year-old kid. At first, Spectre thought the kid had lost consciousness, but he was proven wrong when the kid uncurled himself, crawled towards a dumpster, and got to his feet using the dumpster as support. His ragged clothes were torn and had countless holes. When he finally got back to his feet, Spectre saw the boy throw out blood due to the beating. "What are you holding in your hands?" Spectre saw the kid holding something inside his shirt. Even when he was getting kicked like a human football, the kid curled into a ball, protecting something. To Spectre's surprise, it was a piece of bread. The kid wiped off the blood running down his mouth and finally stopped throwing out blood. For a moment, Spectre lost his interest in the kid. It looked like a typical orphan stealing bread from the wrong place. Thousands of kids died of hunger each year. There was nothing Spectre could do or nothing he would do. As far as he was concerned, these kids were born to suffer. When he was about to turn and leave, Spectre saw something that made him frown. Instead of running away, the kid went to the doorstep and spat on the door. "One day I am going to kill every single one of you," the kid spat at their doorsteps. Spectre's mind played a trick on him by creating a dark cloud around the kid for a moment. As a killer, Spectre could tell the difference between a born killer and a temper tantrum-throwing kid. That kid wasn't being angry. He was just giving Spectre a glimpse of the killer hiding within him. When the kid turned around, he saw the predatory eyes of the kid. They were not of an angry kid but a killer's. A true-born killer. What an interesting find. Spectre was amused and slightly excited. Thus, he followed the kid who limped away from the door. Thanks to the dark alleys and way too many dumpsters, Spectre was able to follow the kid without getting detected. Still, the kid surprised him by turning back, looking around to see if anyone was following him. Spectre felt like he was following a tricky little assassin. Eventually, the kid reached what looked like an abandoned manor near a stinky, polluted river. The water in the river was as black as tar and smelled like a public toilet and a used diaper with a baby. Near the manor, Spectre noticed several large concrete tubes. Subsequently, several children and a young woman were standing inside the tube. When they saw the limping kid, the children cheered. Kind Heart Orphanage. Spectre read the worn-out board hanging on the manor. He wondered why these children were outside instead of staying inside the manor. Luckily, there were several construction materials between Spectre and the kid, so he used them as a cover to get close enough to see what was happening. But when Spectre got close, he noticed the brand new state-of-the-art CCTV cameras fit around the manor. Interesting. Spectre couldn't help but wonder why an orphanage needs high-tech CCTV cameras. No matter how many cameras they had, they weren't a challenge for the #1 assassin in the world. He moved swiftly through the concrete materials, avoiding the cameras like a fish in the sea. Eventually, Spectre reached a concrete tube next to the tube where the children were staying. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 650 How Michael Became Ghost 2-inch Michael, what happened to you? Spectre heard a concerned voice of a young girl. Judging by the voice, Spectre would say the girl was in her teenage years, probably 18 or 19. The usual, said the kid named Michael. The other children surrounded him. Looking at the bruises on his face, the young girl knelt down to match his height. Her eyes watered. "Where is the sister?" asked Michael. "Inside," one of the children whispered. Silence fell over them for a moment until the thunder rumbled in the distance. "Here. Eat this." Michael gave the piece of bread he was hiding inside his shirt to the young girl. Where did you get this? Is this why you're looking like this?" The girl questioned Michael. Tears began to roll out of her eyes. She was an orphan, not stupid. By the bruises and the blood coming out of the cuts on his little body, she could guess where he went to get the bread. "Those bastards." The girl embraced Michael in a big hug. Her body shivered, crying her eyes out. Although they were orphans, they grew up as a family. As far as she was concerned, Michael was her little brother, and he thought of her as his sister too. That was why he risked himself to steal a piece of bread from the place where the gang members packed their drugs. Usually, those gangsters would kill any stranger who dares to enter their building. But Michael wasn't a stranger to them. They used Michael and some of the children in the orphanage as drug mules. To the outside world, Kind Heart was an orphanage, but in reality, it was a gang hideout where the vilest and the sickest criminals did their business. The orphanage was just a cover-up. Okay, stop crying and eat this. You haven't eaten anything for 3 days, said Michael. He smiled despite all the pain to make Ruby stop crying. Instead, his smile hiding the pain only made her sobbing worse. Because of what she did, the thugs kicked them out of the manor as a punishment. One of the vilest creatures went by the name of Orso wanted Ruby to warm his bed. She refused, yet her struggles were futile against him. He abused her despite how many times she begged him. He took pleasure in making her life miserable. A few days ago, he was drunk and wanted to force himself upon Ruby as usual. However, she struggled. As a result, he threw her and the children outside. They were living in the concrete tube for 3 days. They did not even give them water. So whenever Michael trafficked drugs from one area to another through the sewers or dark alleys, he would often make a detour to bring the children some food. One day he would steal from a bakery, and if he was lucky he would find some food in the dumpsters. He would have shared the one biscuit given to him by the thugs, but if he ever faints on the street, the thugs would not only beat all the children to near death but also kill a randomly chosen kid from the orphanage to make an example and to entertain themselves. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. Of course, they could give Michael more than a biscuit. But they wanted Michael to look as pitiful as possible so the lawman would take pity instead of bothering to search him. More than logic, the thugs went with their instincts to torture them. So they made the lives of the kids hellish. No. You need this more than me. I am not hungry, Ruby shook her head. I'm not stupid, Ruby. Eat this or I will shove it down your throat myself. Spectre almost chuckled, hearing the little man threatening the girl. As for you all, I will go for a run tonight. I will definitely get something from that fat baker. Ruby immediately shook Michael's body. No. The last time you tried to steal from him, he almost killed you, her voice stuttered. To everyone's surprise, Michael just chuckled. But here I am. He beats me, but that fatso doesn't take back what I take from him. A pie might be enough for all of you to share. No, Mikey. You don't have to do this. We are not hungry. Some of the other kids who were old enough to see what was going on shook their heads. Just shut up, everyone. I got this. Spectre was amazed by the kid's confidence and the way he talked. Just by looking at the beating he took, Spectre could tell how the kid's life must be. Still, he was willing to go through a beating again just to bring some food to the others. Even a heartless killer like Spectre felt pity for Michael. Are you going to eat this or not? Michael asked Ruby. Seeing the resolve in his eyes, she knew there was no point arguing with him. Finally, Ruby took a bite out of the bread. It wasn't a big bite as she had to share it with the others. 1 piece of bread for 7 people. It was hardly enough for anyone, but they managed to share it with everyone. The kids even picked up the crumbs that fell to the ground and ate them in hunger. While they were eating the bread, Michael came outside the concrete tube away from the eyes of everyone in it. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. Spectre peeked outside to see the kid looking at the sky with a wide open mouth. Spectre wondered why he was doing that. In a few moments, Spectre got his answer. The kid was waiting for the rain droplets to go down his throat. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to drink the sewage water in the river, so the only clean water source was rain. Spectre waited patiently, looking at the kid catching the rain droplets with his mouth. Slowly. Seconds turned minutes and minutes turned hours. Eventually, the drizzle became a heavy downpour. Even Spectre, who wore clothes from head to toe, shivered in the cold. So it wasn't a surprising image to see the children shivering in the concrete tube. They only had each other to get some body warmth. At this moment, everyone closed their eyes, having dreams and nightmares except 2, Michael and Spectre. The latter's eyes were fixed on Michael. As an assassin, Spectre had excellent eyesight even in the dark. He could see the kid sharpening a rusty knife. Spectre didn't know where Michael managed to get the knife, but that wasn't the point. He was more curious why the kid was sharpening the knife this late in the night. "What are you up to, kid?" said Spectre. He watched Michael like a hawk. Eventually he saw Michael crawl out of the concrete tube. He looked at the manor until the last light in a room snuffed out. After darkness completely surrounded the manor, Spectre saw Michael hasting to the manor. Despite the bruises and lack of nutrition, Spectre saw Michael run and parkour over the concrete materials like an expert runner. It was as though the darkness had boosted the kid's power and healed his wounds. Spectre followed Michael, hardly making any noise, and saw Michael climb up the manor as swiftly as a monkey. Standing on the ground, Spectre saw Michael slowly opening a window as quiet as a ninja. That kid is a natural, Spectre's brows arched. Michael even used the thunderclaps to mask his footsteps and movements. It was simply genius. After Michael entered the manor through the window, Spectre climbed the manor in a few blinks of an eye. He slowly followed the footsteps of Michael into the mansion. As soon as Spectre entered the manor, he was stunned by what he saw. A spacious hall filled with wooden boxes containing high-grade weapons and armor. They had enough weapons to arm a small militia. Every single weapon was military grade worth millions. To Spectre's surprise, there were not as many guards as there should have been. Crouching on one of the ceiling beams way above the wooden crates, Spectre managed to locate Michael and the single guard snoring. Like the other thugs who beat up Michael, the guard snoring also had several tattoos on his body, including the black mamba on his neck. He was a big bald guy with a huge belly who could crush a scrawny kid like Michael with his one arm. Judging by the empty glass liquor bottle around the big thug, Spectre could tell unless a grenade went off near him, nothing could wake up the big guy. Michael slowly crouched to the big thug from behind, as quiet as a mouse. Something told Spectre that Michael had done this before. Juror. Suddenly the big man growled, swatting the mosquito on his cheek. Michael halted his steps, hid behind one of the crates, and waited for a few minutes to confirm the big thug was still asleep. A few minutes later he resumed his steps toward the big thug. Currently there was at least 5 meters distance between Michael and the big thug. Spectre curiously stared at the scene unfolding. Unfortunate for Michael, there were no knives around him except the one in his hand. Even to this moment, Spectre couldn't figure out where the other guards were. But Michael knew. Once a month, all the thugs would leave the weapon depot for an hour to treat themselves to drinking, whoring, and beating out poor kids in the name of entertainment. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Finally, it was time to make Rubus' life a little bit better. The closer Michael got to the thug, the more Spectre felt excited. Anticipation was killing him. He couldn't wait to see what Michael was capable of. If Michael really did manage to kill the thug, Spectre wanted to know what comes after the killing. The answer to his question was just a few meters away from Michael and the thug. A large pipe big enough to fit the thug ran from the manor to the river outside. Whenever there was heavy rain, the city would open up the floodgates. Once that happens, the flood would sweep anything in its path to the ocean. Looking at the large pipe and the polythene bag Michael picked up from one of the crates, Spectre figured out the little kid's plan. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 651 How Michael Became Ghost II. Step by step, Michael moved toward the thug, making as little noise as possible. He held the rusty knife in one hand, and a polythene bag used to contain a pistol in the other. When Michael was just a meter away from the thug, he halted his steps, looked around, and took a deep breath, calming himself down. He slowly stood up to match the thug's height. Slowly he walked toward the thug before plunging the dagger into the thug's throat as fast as he could. Despite his scrawny figure, his strength surprised Spectre. It wasn't easy for a kid like him to penetrate the thug's thick skin with a rusty knife. But Michael made it look so simple and easy. As soon as the rusty knife entered the thug's throat, he growled. Blood spurted out from the wound, but before it could spray over the table and the floor, Michael put the polythene bag around the thug's head. The thug violently struggled. Due to his drunk state, the thug wasn't as strong as he would normally be. Michael wrapped his thin hand around the thug's neck, siding the rusty knife from one end to another. When Michael's knife reached the larynx, his rusty knife met resistance. As an assassin who slit countless throats, Spectre knew how hard it is to actually kill someone by cutting human throats. It wasn't as easy as the movies showed them to be. Son of. The thug tried to turn his head, grabbing Michael by his neck. However, Michael began to stab the thug's eyes. The thug squirmed, frantically shivering. After stabbing the thug's eye through the polythene bag, Michael immediately followed up by stabbing the thug's throat right in the center. The blood loss, coupled with Michael's surprisingly strong grasp, made the thug slowly lose consciousness. To Spectre's surprise, Michael did not stop stabbing the thug. He ensured the thug stood no chance of surviving or fighting back. But finally, the thug fell to the ground with the chair. In a blink of an eye, Michael got on top of the fat thug. He plunged the rusty knife through the thug's chin, making sure he didn't yell or scream. Eventually, after so many stabs and much struggle, Michael rolled down the thug's body to the ground. His little chest rose and fell repeatedly. The polythene bag around the thug's head ensured blood from forming a puddle on the ground. Taking a few minutes of rest on the ground, Michael pulled himself to his feet. "This is what you get for hurting Ruby?" Michael kicked the thug right between his legs to vent the remaining anger in his heart. Silence fell over the warehouse for a moment. In an utter silence, Spectre watched everything with an amused smile on his face. Finally, he had found a proper prodigy to train and impart his skills. He had seen many children of famous killers. They were trained from a little age to become the next generation of killers. But Spectre hadn't seen an intense murdering aura from them like he had sensed from Michael. He was a natural-born killer. With the remaining strength, Michael tried to pull the body toward the large hole on the other side of the warehouse. At the same time, Spectre noticed a few shadows when lightning flashed across the sky. Michael's body tensed when he heard the footsteps. He panicked as any kid should. He hastened his steps, but the thug was heavier than he expected. "Why do you have to forget your wallet today of all days, Jamie?" The two guards opened the door on the other end. They were on their way to Michael and their colleague. Now that Michael had killed the thug, he only had two choices: leave the body and run away or try to kill the other two guards. The latter wasn't possible for a scrawny kid like Michael, no matter how much of a prodigy he was. So if Michael had to leave the body and run away, the two guards would see the dead body. Of course, at that time, Spectre wouldn't be surprised if the thugs decided to torture each and every kid individually to get the truth. Luckily for Michael, Spectre decided to help his soon-to-be disciple. He simply jumped down from the beam and landed a few meters away from Michael without making a noise. "Do you need help with the kid?" Michael's muscles went rigid. His eyes opened as wide as they could. He looked up with utter shock to see Spectre walking toward him. Due to the darkness, Michael couldn't see this man's face, but one thing was certain. He didn't belong to this gang, at least he didn't dress like one. "There are two guards on their way to right this spot as we speak," Spectre said silently, just loud enough for Michael to hear him. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, Michael clenched the bloody rusty knife tighter, threatening Spectre to kill him with his eyes. His eyes were predatory instead of fearing Spectre. Who are you?" Michael asked. For the first time, his voice had a slight fear. He didn't fear for his life but for the other children. The fear of letting another child turn into a drug mule like him freaked out Michael. Unlike him, they didn't have the brain to outwit the other gangsters, criminals, and police. They wouldn't survive a week trafficking drugs and weapons from one end to the other under these vile creatures. "I've seen what you can do, Michael." Michael was taken aback by shock. "How do you know my name?" "You followed me." Michael realized why he felt like he was being followed this afternoon. "I want you to become my student." Michael creased his brows. Despite the fact he had killed a thug in cold blood, he was calm enough to use his brain. "What kind of student? How do you like to become an assassin?" Michael looked at Spectre from head to toe. "You mean a hitman?" asked Michael. He was familiar with the term hitmen because he had seen several in the warehouse. He even made some deliveries for them. They were no different from the gangsters but just better at killing people. Potato potato. If you agree, your life will get much better. The way I see it, you have to lose." Spectre looked around for a moment. "I have a family," Michael growled. Although being a drug mule wasn't what he wanted, at least he could be with the others in the orphanage and protect Ruby to an extent. "That bastard better be here." Spectre and Michael heard the thugs. Their footsteps sounded louder and louder. Time was running out for Michael. Spectre could escape even without killing the two things, but he doubted Michael could. "Time is running out, kid. It's either agreeing to be my student or getting caught by the two thugs. If you are lucky, they will kill you, and don't touch the others. You're a smart kid, you can figure out what they would do to them, can't you?" Spectre slowly took a step forward. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. "I am anything but lucky," Michael mumbled under his breath. He really didn't expect the other two thugs to show up. They should have been out for at least 2 hours. A single variant fucked up his plan. "How can I trust you?" "You can't. But you have no choice either." "Tick-tock, little guy." "Tick-tock," Spectre slowly said. The thugs got closer to the point Michael could see their shadows. Only a few crates stood between him and the two thugs. "Promise me you will put the others in a real orphanage far away from here, and I will do whatever you want. You got yourself a deal?" Spectre extended his hand to shake Michael's hand. For a moment, Michael looked confused as the man seemed like wanting to shake his bloody hand. With a long deep breath, Michael shook his hand. Just like how Spectre recognized Michael as a killer, Michael also had this weird feeling about the man before him. He had been dealing with murderous criminals his whole life, and none of them radiated such an intense killing aura. Michael felt like he had shaken the hands of an ultimate predator. "Orso, where the fuck are you?" The two thugs finally walked around the crates to see the silhouettes of Michael and Spectre. "What the?" They panicked. They reached for the gun in the holsters, but Spectre was faster than them. In a blink of an eye, he took out the silenced pistol on his behind and shot them right between the eyes. Their bodies collapsed to the ground with a thud. Spectre's speed freaked out Michael. He didn't even see what just happened clearly. "Cool," Michael couldn't help mumbling under his breath. The stranger startled him with his speed. "What now? We take the kids and drop them somewhere safer?" Michael tilted his head. "Remember, you can kill me. But I will become a ghost and haunt you for the rest of your life." When Michael saw the man remain silent, Michael threatened him. To his surprise, the man just chuckled. "You don't need to die to become Ghost Kid. From now on you don't exist. You're coming with me to a place where no one knows you and you don't know anyone. In return, I will put the others in a much better place, a real orphanage, and put enough money to take care of themselves the rest of their lives." This was the first hardest decision Michael had ever taken in his life. He trusted a stranger to leave everything behind, even the one person he loved the most, Ruby, so they could have a better life. As far as Ruby and the others were concerned, Michael died in an explosion in the warehouse. As a result, the police rounded them up and sent them to a much better place where an anonymous donor made a huge sum of deposits in their names to live a lavish life for the rest of their lives. Even to this date, Ruby visited Michael's grave every month like clockwork and named her first son after Michael. Before Spectre went mad and ordered a hit on an orphanage Michael built, Michael always kept tabs on Ruby and saw her from a distance. Seeing her with a family of her own always made everything he did worth it. Not being able to meet Ruby in person was Michael's only regret on Earth. Chapter 652 Hunting Ghost. Inside the floating castle, Rowena sat inside her room filled with cold mist, meditating. Her eyes twitched when he heard footsteps. Slowly, Rowena opened her eyes to see Bai Ning entering the room. She held a golden parchment in her hand. "He didn't reject my application, did he?" asked Rowena. "He didn't, Holy Maiden," said Bai Ning. To her surprise, she saw Rowena sighing. "I expected that." Rowena rose to her feet with grace. The mist slowly moved toward Rowena as she was sucking all the mist in the room. "How long do I have to study there?" asked Rowena. 1 year for each specialization." 4 years, said Rowena. She did not like to waste her time studying, but she had no choice. As a holy maiden, she needed to be proficient in each specialization. Deep down, Rowena knew studying in Mazeroth was not a waste of time. Just she had never attended any secrets or academies before in her life, so it was going to be a new experience for her. "You will start your academics in the House of Alchemists. Here's everything you need, Holy Maiden." With a flick of her wrist, Bai Ning took out several items including jade green robes from her space ring. Rowena picked up the silver parchment and opened it. "Ruby, huh? Did you pick this name?" asked Rowena. Her face was void of any expression that Bai Ning couldn't tell whether she liked the name or not. "You have to go to Mazeroth in 3 days, Holy Maiden," said Bai Ning. Throwing the silver parchment aside, Rowena locked her gaze with Bai Ning. "When were you planning to tell me about the vampires, Bai Ning?" asked Rowena. Until Rowena saw the royal news, even she didn't know about the vampires. But she was sure the Sky Hall knew about their existence. It made Rowena wonder why the Sky Hall elders chose not to reveal their existence to her. For a moment, Bai Ning didn't say a word. Silence fell over them. It wasn't a decision made by Bai Ning. Instead, the elders ordered her not to share the vampire's existence with the Holy Maiden. They wanted the Holy Maiden as far as possible from what was happening outside. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Did the elders tell you not to? Bai Ning's heart skipped a beat. Rowena calmly questioned Bai Ning as though she had read the old woman's mind. Bai Ning's silence was more than enough for Rowena to know the answer to her question. "When I ascend to the throne, there will be many changes, Bai Ning." Rowena's words were full of authority and dominance. Although Rowena was chosen to be the Holy Maiden, she would get her full power and authority over the elders only after she ascended to the throne. To take that throne, she needed to reach the immortal stage. Until then, she would only be the Holy Maiden in the name. "My father almost died fighting an elder vampire. Did you know that?" Rowena questioned the old woman again. The old woman has been with her since she was little. However, lately she had started to have so many secrets. To be more precise, Bai Ning was ordered to keep things from her. Rowena hated secrecy, especially from people who were close to her. What Rowena hated most was she had to learn what had transpired on the battlefield from Andrews. Until Andrews told her what had happened, she didn't know her father almost died fighting an elder vampire. She may haven't fought one yet, but she heard how powerful an elder vampire could be. "You've been keeping so many secrets lately, Bai Ning?" Rowena's eyes turned predatory. The cold emanated from her body, creating a thin crystal layer on Bai Ning. "I may not have all the powers, but I can still kill you." Bai Ning took a step back in utter fear. No matter how much resources they poured into swaying her to their side, she always prioritized her family. For Rowena, there was nothing more valuable than family. So when something endangers her family, she would bring the wrath of the Holy Maiden upon them against the Elder's wish. As much as she loved her family, she also valued what was wrong and what was right. Otherwise, she would have gone to kill Ghost the moment she learned what he did to Andrews in the tournament. Just like Noah, Rowena also blamed Andrews and felt grateful to Ghost for not killing Andrews when he could have easily. To be honest, Rowena coldly yelled at Andrews for not involving her in his love matter. She could have easily convinced Catherine's father as the Holy Maiden. Who would dare to go against the wish of a Holy Maiden? No one. Simply put, Rowena would go to any length to protect her family and keep them safe. This made the entire Sky Hall fear Rowena and did their best to keep everything about Harriet from Rowena. As a result, every time Bai Ning thought about Rowena learning the truth about her family and what the Sky Hall did to them, she would break into a sweat in fear. When Rowena turned around, Bai Ning sighed in relief. It felt as if a mountain of pressure had been lifted off her shoulder. Ghost, Rowena thought of Michael. She felt grateful to him. This wasn't the first time he had saved her family. First he saved her sister. Then he saved her mother on the same day from an assassination. Finally, he had saved her father from an elder vampire. Her eyes lost the cold murderous intent and showed a tinge of gentleness. She wanted to meet him. Luckily, Mazeroth had given her a perfect chance to meet him. Back in Eve's castle, Michael was cuddling Gaia on the bed. Since the winter would begin in a few days, the night was cold enough for him to light the fireplace and purchase a thick blanket from the system store. After upgrading the system, purchasing an ancient ice core and earning a ton of badass points by killing an elder vampire, he took a break from all the chaos and decided to spend some quality time with Gaia. In 4 days they would have to return to Mazeroth where they cannot sleep like this. So Michael hit the bed early with Gaia and slept cuddling her tight. After learning the truth about Vidora's kind, Nightmare decided to stay with Vidora so they won't feel alone. The night was calm and peaceful. The only sound that resonated in the room was the firework crackling under the flames and Gaia's soft groans whenever he hugged her tighter. Under the thick blanket, Michael wore nothing but his black sweatpants. Everything was so peaceful and calm until a bright glow appeared above Michael's bed out of nowhere. Michael's eyes abruptly opened. To his suspicion, Gaia wasn't beside him anymore. Instead, all he could see were tall trees. The dried tree leaves crumbled under his breath. He slowly picked himself off the ground and tried to see where he was and how he got there. He looked up at the moonless sky. Then he looked around but didn't move. As far as his eyes could see, there was nothing but trees. It was obvious he was in a forest. But it wasn't a rainforest with a sea of trees and thick foliage. Rather, the forest was a temperate coniferous forest. Yellowish dried leaves blanketed the ground. Judging by the lack of arch energy in the atmosphere, Michael guessed he was somewhere in the southern continent. Which led him to another question: how did he end up here? It seemed to him someone had teleported him because one moment he was in R and the other, he was in another continent. But how? That was the question in his mind. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. Suddenly, the sound of someone whistling echoed through the forest. This is where the hunters become the hunted. Following the whistle, a calm thick voice sounded in Michael's head. The voice appeared to come from every direction, which confused Michael. However, whoever teleported him didn't have an idea that Michael could still use arch energy in the southern continent. As a result, he was able to locate the intruder with his environmental map. To get the full story, Michael pretended to be powerless. It would be unwise to show his true power before learning why he was here and how the man teleported him here. The last time Michael checked, no one except the system could teleport someone into the southern continent. "Hello," Michael raised his voice. "What is this place? How did I get here?" Michael questioned. Michael didn't receive any response. Instead, he saw an arrow fly past him, barely missing his cheek by an inch. "Run," Michael noticed the voice turning predatory. It almost sounded like a growl of an animal. Michael rolled his eyes. Then he slowly stepped forward, pretending to be shocked and awed. He wanted to put on an act so whoever kidnapped him would slowly reveal some valuable information. Granted, Michael could always try to catch and torture him. But after realizing his foe might have the power to teleport, Michael didn't want to take any chances. Michael hastened his pace when another arrow shot past him. He was running in the woods wearing nothing but his sweatpants. You can see the true heart of a man when you're out in the woods with a weapon. As soon as these words resonated in the forest, a sword dropped from a tree, landing a meter away from Michael. Michael entertained the one who thought hunting him by picking up the sword. The moment Michael picked the silver sword from the ground, an arrow shot straight toward Michael's head. With a single swing of his sword, Michael cut the arrow in half. Hunting is part of a cycle of life that repeats, the man said. Michael used his X-ray vision while running to locate several traps. All of them were used by hunters. Michael avoided every single trap in the arrows. A worthy prey after a long time, the man who was hunting Michael exclaimed. To track prey you must first know it as you would a brother. Am I right, Ghost? Asked the man. Chapter 653 Puma, the hunter using the X-ray vision. Michael noticed several traps on his way. One of the traps was connected to a large log above. Once he trips the wire, it would bring down the log in an arc, knocking down the poor soul. To get more information from this hunter, Michael needed to get out of his sight. His mind quickly formed a plan. He slowed down, letting the hunter get a bit close. When the hunter was directly behind him, Michael threw the sword, slashing the trip wire. As soon as the sword cut the wire, a large log came down, swinging. With his superior agility, Michael jumped on the log at the speed of a lightning flash and leaped away from its trajectory. The log traveled swinging in the air. For a moment, the hunter's sight moved from Michael. Michael heard a rustling sound. The hunter slid under the log to escape it. Fortunately, the split-second distraction enabled Michael to do something the hunter never had expected. He used the arch energy to get to a treetop with a single leap. Michael jumped from tree to tree, canceling the noise with arch energy. The traps, the quotes the hunter spoke, and everything about this place told Michael the man was obsessed with hunting. A man such as him would have keen senses and tracking abilities. So Michael left no trail for him. After leaping off the log, Michael's feet never touched the ground as he flew a few inches above the ground, not enough for the hunter to differentiate between running and floating. After leading several trees, Michael willed the system to equip his black dress. Michael manipulated the darkness to cover himself. It was enough for him to blend in with the dark night. Hanging on a tree way above the ground, Michael used thermal vision to track down the hunter. To the naked eye, the hunter was invisible due to the ghillie suit and the darkness. But to Michael, the hunter was clear as day. Michael adjusted his X-ray vision to take a closer look at the hunter slowly moving forward. The man crouched down, looking for food prints or disturbances on the ground to locate Michael. Michael felt like a predator. His mind almost screamed at him to make some clicking noises just for fun. "Where are you?" the hunter asked Michael. Despite the lack of tracks, the hunter remained calm. He almost sounded amused. The hunter eventually looked up to see if Michael was up in the trees. "I can hear your heartbeat, Ghost." To Michael's astonishment, an arrow soared through the hair, hitting the tree just missing his face by a couple of inches. If it wasn't for Michael's superior reflex, the arrow would have penetrated his head right away. Michael immediately leaped onto another tree and yet again, the hunter hit the tree with an arrow as fast as Michael's leap. "Hear my heartbeat, huh?" Michael smirked. "I gotta give it to you, Ghost, you are a damn good climber," the hunter said. There was a bit of admiration in his voice. "Thank you. I would shake your hands but..." Michael's words were abruptly cut short when an arrow hit the bark beside him. "I will shake your hands?" The hunter paused for a moment. "After I cut your hand out of your body? Is that so?" Michael said, rapidly leaping from one tree to another. Since the trees were closer to each other, the hunter wasn't surprised by his acrobatics. In stark contrast, Michael was using arch energy to leap back and forth. To disorient the hunter once again, Michael ordered the system to form a shield around himself, preventing the hunter from hearing his heartbeat. The hunter's arrows finally stopped hitting the trees. He looked around, frowning behind his suit made of dark leaves. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed while the hunter was searching for Michael, he took out a dagger and cut his palm. As soon as Michael's blood gushed out of his palm, the hunter fired an arrow precisely at the point where Michael touched the tree with his bloody palm. Michael heard the hunter take a long whiff as though he was smelling the blood. Darkness, hearing heartbeats and smelling blood. He's a vampire. Michael connected the dots and learned the hunter's origins. There was no doubt in his mind. To be more sure, Michael decided to see if the hunter has a regenerative ability. The APD healed the cut on his palm. When the blood disappeared from his hand, Michael leaped from tree to tree. In a few moments he closed the gap between them and appeared right on top of the hunter. Michael dropped from the tree, landing a few inches behind the hunter. Immediately Michael slashed the dagger left and right, cutting the hunter's back. Caught off guard, the hunter roared. Blood spurted out from the hunter's cuts. Michael pulled out the camouflage on his body. As expected, Michael saw the wound closing up. With a speed beyond mortal limits, the hunter turned around, swinging the longbow in his hand. Michael quickly leaped back. "You're a vampire," said Michael. The man before him was tall, muscular with broad shoulders and had a thick mustache. Moreover, his eyes glimmered with killing lust. "RH," the man roared as Michael saw the two long fangs. Even in the darkness, the two fangs were visible to the naked eye. A slight surprise emerged in Michael's eyes. Compared to Avon, the vampire before him was several times more menacing. The vampire did not attack Michael head-on but throw a smoke bomb at his feet to disappear from Michael's sight. The thick cloud of gas quickly surrounded Michael, preventing him from following the vampire's tracks. The vampire's speed surprised Michael. He did not use arch energy to boost his speed. Rather, it was purely skills honed by probably hundreds of years of practice or hunting. Once again Michael leaped into the air, reaching the top of a tree. He completely concealed the sound of his heartbeat with the help of the system. "System, scan him. I want to know how he managed to teleport me here," Michael ordered the system in his mind. Full scanning would cost the host 10,000 badass points. "Do it. Keep your eyes on the target until the system finishes the scanning. It will be done in 5 minutes. With a smirk on his face, Michael took out a few vials containing human blood. He was using these vials to brew some potions, but now they were going to help him distract the vampire. He tossed a vial to the other side. When the vials shattered, the vampires fired an arrow. "Life is funny, isn't it?" asked Michael. His voice echoed through the silent forest. "One second you were the hunter and the next you became the hunted." The vampire knew Ghost was using the trees to traverse. So naturally he kept his eyes above. Unfortunately for him, the darkness prevented him from locating Michael. His ears couldn't pick up the sound of Ghost's heartbeat. Coupled with Michael's lightning-quick speed, the vampire struggled to locate him. "Teleporting me to the southern continent, that's a good move," Michael conversed with the vampire. He confused the vampire by tossing the blood vials to another side. "But picking me as your target, bad move?" Michael's voice became cold. "You made several mistakes, vampire." Whoosh! An arrow hit the tree Michael was hanging on. Still, it couldn't hit Michael. He was simply too fast. The vampire was indeed good and almost on par with Gaia in archery. However, Michael used the arch energy to boost his speed. Moreover, it was a dark night when Michael was the strongest. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, mistake number 1. You let me learn the layout of this place. Another arrow penetrated the bark. The vampire avoided hitting the place where the scent of blood came from. He learned Ghost was using the blood vials to distract him. Instead, the vampire focused on Michael's voice. Mistake number 2. You didn't do your homework. Otherwise, you would have known what I am capable of, said Michael. He increased his speed more. As a result, the vampire had a hard time locating Michael. Mistake number 3. You talk too much. Finally, the system finished scanning the vampire. The system has detected a teleportation talisman on the vampire's belt. A talisman. Michael thought. Can you lock down this place? It would be a shame if the vampire used the talisman to escape. That will cost you 50,000 badass points, host. Just do it. Although 50,000 badass points was a huge sum, it wasn't more valuable than the information Michael could get from the vampire. After killing Avon, he had badass points to spare, 400,000 badass points to spare to be precise. A pulse of energy shot out from Michael. It was completely invisible. An oblivious man would see no difference in the forest. Even the vampire had no idea that Michael destroyed his escape plan. Finally, Michael stopped leaping from tree to tree like a monkey and jumped down. The vampire immediately jumped backward. But to this moment, there was no fear in the vampire's eyes. Instead, Michael only saw excitement. It had been so long since I hunted something worthy, the vampire calmly said. Before we do this, what should I call you? Asked Michael. The two of them had approximately 10 meters of distance between them. At this moment, neither of them made any sudden movements. Usually, I want to indulge my prey by saying my name. But you are different. You earned the right to know my name. I go by the name Puma. Let me guess, Cougar sounded crappy, so you went with Puma? Michael ridiculed the vampire without a shred of fear in his eyes. This lack of fear made Puma's blood boil in excitement. He couldn't wait to bring out the fear on Ghost's face. Puma snickered, looking at the smirk on Michael's face. "I will let you have your amusement before I rip off that head of yours." Puma dropped the bow in his hand and slowly unsheathed the red dagger from the sheath dangling on his waist. He licked the dagger menacingly. "Let's dance," said Michael. Chapter 654 Serpent Mega's Bane. Since Michael threw the sword to cut the trap wire, he didn't have a weapon in his hand. But no weapon, no problem for Michael. The vampire dashed at Michael with speed beyond any mortal's limits. Michael sensed no arch energy around Puma's body. It seemed like only the talisman was using arch energy somehow to teleport. Other than the talisman, Puma had nothing that capitalized on the arch energy. Instead, Puma used pure skill honed by years of training to fight Michael. Puma closed the gap between them in a blink of an eye. He swung the dagger left and right with deadly precision. Although his movements weren't fancy or had much technique, they were deadly and moreover, fast. A single misstep and the dagger would cut Michael's neck. Ding! The dagger met the shield that suddenly appeared over Michael's wrist. Sparks flew around them. Michael used the shield to block and parry Puma's attack. For a few moments, Puma viciously struck the shield left and right. He naturally aimed for Michael's neck, eyes, and gut, but Michael blocked all the attacks with the black shield. The sound of metal clashing echoed through the silent forest. While fighting Puma, Michael did not forget about the traps on the ground. He navigated through the traps without triggering any. After blocking several attacks, Michael swung the shield, parrying Puma. The force of Michael's move made Puma stumble. Michael followed the successful parry with a vicious punch to Puma's gut. Caught off guard, Puma immediately tried to block Michael's punch. However, he was too late. Michael's punch sent Puma several steps backward. Using the opportunity, Michael leaped into the air, swinging his body to land a 540 kick on Puma's head. In the mid-air, Michael boosted his speed with arch energy. As a result, Puma couldn't see Michael's leg until he felt a sharp pain in his head. A tooth flew out of Puma's mouth. He wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth. Despite the pain, Puma grinned from ear to ear. Michael did not slow down. He pressed his advantage by barraging Puma with rapid punches. Vicious punches and kicks overwhelmed Puma. Michael swung his shield, knocking back Puma a few meters back. Without giving Puma time to retaliate, Michael finished his combo with a powerful tornado kick. The moment Michael feet his Puma's head, Puma felt like he was hit by a hammer. His legs trembled. He stumbled back. Serpent Mega. Michael halted his steps when he heard Puma. The vampire spat out blood with a grin. "You remind me of the prey I hunted down a long time ago. She too fought just like you." Michael creased his brows. Although Michael knew Puma was buying time to heal himself, Michael didn't attack him anymore. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. But how did a human like you learn the forbidden fighting style of Nagas? Puma tilted his head. During these few moments, Puma's regenerative ability healed his body. "Tell me about that Naga you met." Michael's voice became colder. His eyes turned predatory. "It's a very good fighting style. But just like any fighting style, it has a bane." Instead of answering Michael's question, Puma stretched his arm, raised his right foot from the ground and placed it on the left thigh. As a result, Puma looked like a Shaolin monk. Puma didn't wait for Michael to make a move. Rather, he dashed at Michael. Michael swung his fist, but Puma blocked his punch, countering Michael with a powerful sidekick to Michael's ribs. Michael's abdomen felt numb. Still, he didn't lose his balance. Michael retaliated with vicious rapid punches. To his shock, Puma blocked every single punch as though he had anticipated the punches. Puma counterattacked Michael with rapid kicks and punches. Thanks to the APD, Michael's organs got healed in no time. Otherwise he would have puked blood. In a few blinks of an eye, Puma landed 50 or so punches and kicks on Michael. The worst thing was Michael couldn't anticipate Puma's attacks. Just as Puma said, his Serpent Mega finally met its bane. Even though Michael practiced and made changes to the Serpent Mega to the point he reached 98% mastery, it was still a fighting style created by Naga in this world. Thus, it wasn't a unique, undefeatable fighting style. Puma leaped into the air suddenly. He swung his body mid-air and shot toward Michael like an arrow. Michael's instinct screamed at him as he raised the shield to block Puma's attack. Surprisingly, Puma leaped over Michael's shoulder, changing his trajectory. He swiftly landed behind Michael. Puma was fast to the point even Michael didn't react in time. The vampire swung his dagger, cutting Michael in the back. Blood spurted out. "You're not giving your full focus to me, Ghost," Puma said after leaping away from Michael. He was right. Michael couldn't completely focus on the fight. His mind wondered who the Naga was. Was he talking about Gaia's mother? Michael couldn't help asking himself this question. This time, Puma was surprised to see the wound closing up on Ghost's back. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, huh? Puma was confused. Ghost was not a vampire. Then how could his body heal without a healing potion? Puma was certain Ghost didn't drink a healing potion. Yet his body healed itself. "You are right." Michael finally turned around. He retracted the shield and cracked his fists. "I was wondering whether to kill you or catch you alive. Thank you for making the decision easier." Puma heard a low-pitched whistling noise. He saw Ghost's eyes glimmer for a moment. If they had daylight, Puma would have seen Michael's eyes turning pitch black. Darkness shrouded Ghost. Suddenly, 2 black laser beams shot out of Michael's eyes. Puma didn't even have time to react as the 2 black laser beams penetrated through his shoulder. Moreover, the beams contained a force that sent Puma flying onto the tree behind him. Splinters of wood flew. Any man could see the 2 holes in several trees. After the black laser beams disappeared, Michael's eyes radiated a puff of smoke. Michael's face turned serious. He wasn't playing anymore. Immediately, Michael ordered the system to disable if there was any surveillance spell or recording stones around them. Next, Michael dashed at Puma, who was trying to pick himself up from the ground. Since Michael lacked the badass points to empower the dark beams with dark flames, the 2 holes in Puma's shoulders slowly closed up. Seeing Ghost dashing toward him, Puma quickly prepared himself to block his attacks. The imminent threat stopped Puma from wondering what the heck just happened. But his body refused to move, as though an invisible force was shaking his body. When Michael reached Puma, he punched Puma in the face. A sickening crunch resonated from Puma's nose. It looked crooked. Before it could heal itself, Michael snatched the red dagger in his hand. The dark flames engulfed the dagger. Immediately, Michael swung the dagger, cutting Puma's hand clean off of his shoulder. Blood spurted everywhere, including on Michael's face. But Michael did not stop. He cut Puma's second hand. Arghar! Puma screamed as the red dagger turned into an ooze by the dark flames. As expected, the dagger couldn't withstand the heat of the dark flames for longer. It must have been an epic-class weapon to last long enough for Michael to keep the dark flames for a couple of seconds. The 2 hands hit the ground with a thud. Puma had never felt such intense pain ever since he was turned by Elder Lenora. The pain was too excruciating. Every fiber in his body screamed in agony. Since his hands were cut off by the dagger engulfed by the dark flames, Puma's body was unable to regenerate the 2 hands. Without playing with Puma, Michael flicked his wrist, taking out a long needle from the system's storage. He stabbed the needle into Puma's neck without wasting any time. As soon as Michael injected the needle into Puma's neck, the vampire squirmed frantically. His body soon stopped moving altogether after a few moments. Silence fell over them once again. Except for the sound of dried leaves rustled by the wind, one could hear nothing. Michel wanted to teleport Puma to the crypt. But he raised his hand and touched the tree behind Puma. Soon, a golden glow appeared in the tree for a moment and disappeared after a second. After placing a rune on the tree to teleport here later, Michael willed the system to teleport Puma and him to the pocket dimension attached to the dark forest. That was where Michael tortured and killed Connors. He used the pocket dimension to interrogate high-priority targets. His instincts told him that Puma was nothing but a high-value target. There was a chance Puma was talking about Gaia's mother. He recalled Gaia telling him that the serpent Mega was taught to her by her mother and only their bloodline knew this fighting technique. If Puma really had met Gaia's mother, he might know something that could help them figure out where Gaia's mother is and, more importantly, what made her fake her own death and disappear. In a blink of an eye, the scenery around Michael changed. Puma was still unconscious. My lord, as soon as Michael appeared in the pocket dimension, he was welcomed by Azazel. The demon butler was surprised to see Michael with Puma. The demon butler was enjoying his time off in the serene view of the waterfall and the small lake at the feet of the waterfall. His break was cut short when Michael appeared. Tie him to the tree. Michael pushed Puma to Azazel and disappeared once again. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 655 Uncovering the Truth About Gaia's Mother. After Azazel tied up Puma against the lone apple tree in the pocket dimension, Michael appeared before him with a potion. Where are you? Michael heard Gaia's voice in his head. Just having a meeting with Azazel, baby, said Michael. He created a dome around him so Puma wouldn't hear him. Initially, Michael thought about informing Gaia. However, he changed his mind as he didn't want to raise Gaia's hopes up in case Puma was lying or talking about another Naga. Luckily, Michael had the truth serum that he used on Victor in the system storage. What is this place? Puma asked Azazel. When Puma turned his gaze to Azazel, his brows arched up. Despite the pain, Puma could feel some strange energy radiation from the man dressed as a butler. Especially the sound of a heartbeat. He had lived as a vampire for almost 100 years, but he had never heard such an abnormal heartbeat. What are you? Puma's fangs grew out. He tried to regenerate his arms, but something prevented his ability to regenerate. Furthermore, Puma wondered how Ghost used arch energy inside the void line. Unless Ghost was a vampire, there was no chance he could have used a spell. But Ghost was no vampire. He saw him walk in the sunlight without wearing any dark cloaks to cover his face. You're probably wondering whether I am a vampire or not, right? Puma heard Ghost's voice. As though Ghost had read his mind, he asked the same question Puma asked himself. I am not a vampire, Ghost answered. There was a peculiar calmness to his voice. But I am something much more. The dark night somehow turned darker when Ghost uttered these words. Puma looked around to see something that could help him locate where he was. Several questions appeared in his mind. You kind has been bothering me for some time. Look, I killed one when he attacked me first. Then Duke Avon he stole something that belonged to me. In these two scenarios your kind crossed my path. I didn't do shit to you people. Michael walked around the tree with his hand behind his back. Now see, I was back on R sleeping with my girl. I don't spend enough time with her, but does she complain? No. Michael stopped, facing Puma in his eyes. Michi placed his hand on Puma's shoulder. So whenever she asks me something, I go to hell and heaven to get that for her. Luckily for you, you have something she wants. Puma growled like a wounded animal. However, continued to converse with Puma. Tell me about the Naga you mentioned earlier. In return, I will let you go and meet your boss for a peace talk, said Michael. Honestly, Michael had no intention of letting Puma go. However, if the vampires were up for it, he could go for a peace talk. The Dark Lord could hunt down the bloodsuckers while Ghost could be at peace with them. After all, the Dark Lord had too many enemies and his order was still not at the place to fight them all. To Michael's surprise, Puma began to laugh. You think I am stupid human? You used arch energy within the void line. You brought me here, which is definitely something you keep hidden from the rest of the world. You wouldn't have shown these if you intended to let me go. So go ahead, kill me. A hunter should always prepare himself to be hunted. I won't tell you shit. Puma spat the blood clinging to his throat on Michael's face. I wish you hadn't done that. As soon as Michael said these words, he stabbed Puma's neck with the needle in his hand. He slowly injected the truth serum into his bloodstream. The only downside of using it was that Puma would die in an hour. Azazel stood beside him looking at Puma growl. He wondered what the vampire knew for his master to bring him here in his ghost persona. Besides, Azazel noticed the cold killing intent in his eyes. As Puma said, Azazel also knew Ghost has no intention of letting him go. But it was a pity that Puma took the hard way. Otherwise, he wouldn't have earned a quick painless death from his master. Silence fell over them. Except for Puma's groan, they heard nothing. After almost 10 minutes of utter silence, Michael's question broke the silence. What's your real name? This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. Puma's eyes turned from predatory to submissive. He stopped squirming. Corbin, said Puma. What do you know about the Naga you mentioned earlier? Asked Michael. He wanted to know about the Naga more than who sent Puma after him. A rogue vampire. Elder Lenora wanted me to hunt her down quietly. Michael's veins bulged up under his skin. His eyes immediately turned predatory. Did you kill her? Asked Michael. Azazel saw bolts of golden lightning crackling around his hands, threatening to kill Puma. She escaped, said Puma. Finally, Michael sighed in relief. Tell me more, Michael threatened Puma. Who was she? Michael stared at Puma for his answer. Everything around him seemed to have slowed down. Puma's answer could help Michael find Gaia's mother if the Naga Puma ordered to hunt was indeed Gaia's mother. Adelia Ashton. The Queen of Nagaland. Michael's heart skipped a beat. Shocking was an understatement. How could Gaia's mother be a vampire? Was she turned? Was that the reason Adelia left Gaia? So many questions emerged in Michael's mind. What do you mean she was a rogue vampire? Adelia wasn't a vampire. Michael grabbed Puma's throat. Unknowing to Michael, a layer of darkness appeared around him. Azazel noticed the changes but chose not to say anything in front of Puma. A rogue vampire. They don't obey the clan rules. They are rogues, living with the mortals, doing what they like when they like. Whenever their actions threatened to expose the clan to the outside world, the elders would put a hit on them. That was what happened, said Puma. Who turned her? Asked Michael. This time his voice became demonic. Without using any devices, his voice sounded demonic. Fortunately, Puma wasn't in a state to rationalize or use his brain. I don't know, said Puma. Since he was under the influence of the truth serum, there was no possibility of Puma lying. Still, it was hard for Michael to believe. When did you last see her? Asked Michael. According to Gaia, Adelia died when Gaia was 6 years old. That meant she had died 23 years ago. Although Michael didn't believe Adelia really died, a solid proof of life could prove that Adelia was alive and sometimes help them find Adelia. Tell me exactly when you tried to hunt her? Asked Michael. 22 years ago, Michael loosened his grip on Puma's throat. His legs automatically took a few steps back. She faked her death. Adelia didn't die that day, Michael mumbled under his breath. My lord, if I may, Azazel asked. Since he noticed Michael was in shock, Azazel wanted to give his master a break and continue the interrogation himself. Go on, Michael nodded. He needed to inform Gaia. He didn't know how she was going to react. Nonetheless, she needed to know the truth about her mother. Do you know where she is now? Asked Azazel. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net no, said Puma. If you want to find her again, where do you look and who do you question? Asked Azazel. ID start with Elder Lenora. She put the hit on her. So if anyone knows something, it's Elder Lenora. Michael recalled seeing the elders in the surveillance room in the dark forest. When he visited the castle of vampires, he bugged the entire castle. So he knew every single elder vampire. If his memory served him right, Lenora was the red-haired vampire. Now that Michael thought about everything, he had never seen Puma in the castle. Because the Vampire Death Squad only visited the tavern, which was a pocket dimension attached to the vampire castle, Michael's spiders never caught them. Who else knows about Adelia Ashton? Asked Azazel. I don't know, answered Puma. Let me rephrase my question. Is there anyone who might know about Adelia? Asked Azazel. Michael locked his gaze on Puma. If Elder Lenora put in open contact, the other Death Squad members might have gone after her. Michael clenched his fist. Death Squad? Who are they? Asked Azazel. Judging by the name, it was evident they were some kind of assassins the vampire elders used to kill whoever stood in their way or hurt their kind. Assassins. Each had their own way of tracking and killing targets. I am one of them. Who else is in the Death Squad? Asked Michael. Bear, spider, snake, gray wolf and white wolf. Michael inquired about each and everyone from Puma. If Michael didn't have the system, he would have been dead right now. Puma was not at all an easy foe to go against. In fact, with the teleportation talisman, Puma could hunt almost anyone in the world. If the others were anything like Puma, Adelia would have been in real trouble. No wonder she faked her own death, thought Michael. It was time to bring Gaia to meet Puma. But before he teleported back to R, Michael forced the blood tonic down Puma's throat. In case Puma used some tactic to escape this place, Michael could kill him with a snap of his finger. It was reassurance. Keep an eye on him, Michael said to Azazel. Then Michael disappeared into thin air. The scenery quickly transformed around Michael. When he appeared in his room in Voldegard's castle, he noticed Gaia peacefully sleeping. He took a deep breath and walked to her side. Gaia? Michael gently brushed her face. What? Come to bed, she groaned, half asleep. Wake up. There is something you need to know. Sensing the seriousness in his voice, Gaia slowly opened his eyes. Michael sat on the bed beside her. What is it? The sleepiness in Gaia's eyes instantly vanished. In its stead, a glimmer of worry glistened in her eyes. I caught someone who met you, mother. Chapter 656 Tracking down Elder Lenora. As soon as Gaia heard these words, she rose up from the bed as though someone had set a fire under the bed. Her eyes watered. Where? Let me see him. Gaia jumped off the bed. She didn't even put on her usual robes. Instead, she was ready to leave the room with the red pajamas Michael bought her from the system store. With a simple nod, Michael willed the system to teleport them both to the pocket dimension attached to the dark forest abyss. In a blink of an eye, the scenery around her changed. When she appeared in the pocket dimension, she saw Azazel standing beside the apple tree. There was someone with no hands shackled to the tree. Just as she was about to rush toward the vampire, Michael grabbed her hand. Remember, you are Elia, Michael whispered into her ears. She hasted toward the vampire. What do you know about Adelia Ashton? Asked Gaia. Following her question, Puma repeated everything he had told Azazel and Michael. Her body trembled, listening to Puma. It was evident to Michael that she was feeling a strong urge to kill Puma. Azazel saw her eyes glimmering with shock and anger. After hearing everything from Puma, she stumbled back. Michael quickly caught her and wrapped his arm around her. Tell me, how do I meet Lenora? Her eyes turned predatory. For a moment, her human eyes transformed into the eyes of a cobra. She hissed at Puma. If you kill a Death Squad assassin and take the head to the Lonely Wyvern Tavern on the outskirts of Kingdom Maven, she will come to meet you, said Puma. But to Michael it sounded so simple. There was no way a powerful elder vampire like Lenora would come meet him without any backup or intention to kill. Besides, it didn't make any sense. Why would anyone ask where I can meet the one who sent you to kill me, or why would anyone go to that tavern? Michael thought after killing Puma, Lenora would track him down somehow or send another Death Squad member. Unknowing to Michael, not making sense was one of Lenora's traits. She liked to play mind games with her foes and with her own kind. Defying logic and sense was the way she survived as an elder vampire for so long. But Michael wasn't wrong either. After killing Puma, whether or not he travels to the Lonely Wyvern Tavern, she would track him down. The tavern was there to attract daredevils such as Michael. In a way, Lenora's plan worked because Michael had already made up his mind to visit this tavern. Poch. Blood spurted out suddenly as Michael and Azazel saw Puma's head flying in the air. They turned their gazes at Gaia to see a bloody silver sword in her hand. I am going to meet her and find my mother. I shouldn't have stopped trying, she clenched her fist. You're not. I am, said Michael. What? Gaia looked him in the eyes. I said you are not going to meet Lenora. I am. Puma was after me. So it'll only make sense if I go to meet her. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed as Michael expected. Gaia shook her head. No. I'm not putting you in danger so I can find my mother. You are both important to me. Gaia was firm in her decision and she would fight for it. Michael could see it in her eyes. Honestly, Michael didn't think she was making a decision with overwhelming emotions like anger or sadness. Anyone would do the same in her shoes. After all, Adelia was just a person to Michael, but to Gaia, Adelia was her mother. How could Gaia remain still after learning her mother was turned into a vampire and being hunted by powerful beings? What do you think will happen? You waltz in there and they will tell you everything you want to know. I will make them, Gaia growled. Killing intent soared through the roof in her eyes. No, you can't, Michael bluntly said. Think about it. Why does Lenora meet the one who kills her elite puppies? The one who killed her elite was better. So she will most probably turn you, or if you resist, kill you? Michael, who lived 2 lives, knew how people like Lenora would think. If he were a vampire and found a powerful being like Gaia, he would turn her too. The more powerful people in the clan, the safer and the better they were. Don't make me fight you, Michael, said Gaia, taking a few steps back. I won't let them turn you. If the price for knowing what happened to my mother is turning into a vampire, I will do that in a heartbeat. But I won't let them put a finger on you. Listen, Michael's voice became stern. I'm not telling you not to go. I'm telling you not to go alone. I have a way to get everything we want without turning into vampires or dying. Michael stepped closer. Soon, the Dark Lord's armor covered his body along with the Dark Shroud. After turning into the Dark Lord, the area around them grew darker. How? Asked Gaia. Until now, his plans never failed. Although she didn't want Michael's ghost persona to get tangled with the vampires any more than he already had, she saw no harm in listening to his plan. With his help, she could find his mother faster. What's the vampire's biggest weakness? The sunlight. Let's give them something that could fix this weakness. They will have no choice but to reveal everything in exchange for this fix, said Michael. The current level of the system was unable to create a formula to cure vampirism. However, it was enough to give Michael a potion to protect the vampires from sunlight for a couple of hours. Of course, Michael could enhance the potion and make the effects last longer, but it was enough for the vampires. System, give me that formula. His 400,000 badass points were reduced by half after the order to the system. Eventually, the system engraved the formula into his mind. Fortunately, he had all the ingredients he needed to brew this potion in his personal herbal garden in the Sunrise Sect. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, I have the cure. This way will work, trust me, said Michael. He took a step forward and grabbed her shoulders. You trust me, right? I won't let anything happen to your mother. She is family. Michael squeezed Gaia's shoulder. Her eyes welled up hearing his words. Strangely, she felt reassured when he heard him. The next few hours were spent on teleporting to the Sunrise Sect, collecting the herbs and brewing the potions. Afterward, Michael ordered Azazel to hide a crate full of potions in the dark forest. He only took one potion with him as a proof. Considering there was no better time than the present, Michael immediately teleported to Giselle and then flew to Maven as the Dark Lord. When he reached the outskirts of Maven, he landed in the woods and walked out of it as Ghost and Elia. The Lonely Wyvern Tavern was built along a lonely man-made path. As far as eyes could see, there was no building or any signs of life. It took Michael some time to finally locate the tavern. From the outside it looked dark, disturbing and ugly. Small stones and thick hardwood logs made up most of the building's outer structure. It was hard to see through the small stained glass windows, but the coldness from within could be felt outside. This is depressing, said Michael. No doubt the vampires hang out in this place. Judging by the tall trees around them, it would be hard for the sunlight to peek through even in the middle of the day. As Michael and Gaia entered the tavern through the old metal door, they were welcomed by the smell of alcohol and aromas of what's probably food, hopefully. The bartender was neither old nor young but looked like a villain out of a children's book. With his long mustache, the scar on his face, and the eye patch didn't help his personality. He was rubbing a glass with a cloth, though it was not getting cleaner. The man made no effort to acknowledge Michael and Gaia's presence. As expected, it was just as horrible inside as it was on the outside. Wooden beams supported the upper floor and the lanterns attached to them. The walls were decorated with mounted animal heads and small animals, though most had become worn and broken, giving the place an even creepier feel. The tavern itself was almost completely abandoned. The few people inside didn't seem like a welcoming bunch. Whoever they were, staying as far as possible from them was better. They were all dressed in creepy black hoods and smelled like blood. Now that Michael recalled, he did hear something about the tavern from Heinberg. Supposedly it was infamous for something, but for the life of he couldn't remember what for. Though judging by everything in this place, it must be something creepy. Michael led the way to the bartender, letting Gaia carry the head of Puma in a sack. To Michael's surprise, he heard the few people in the tavern sniff the air as though they could smell the blood from afar. Are you lost or something? The bartender didn't even bother to look at Michael when he talked. Not lost. Just searching for someone who visits this tavern often, said Michael. He calmly pulled out the wooden bar chair to sit beside Gaia. Whoever it is, I am pretty sure we don't know them, said the bartender. Name Lenora ring any bells? Finally, the bartender looked up at Michael. Michael smiled. It was obvious he was in the right place. Otherwise, the bartender would have looked shocked and the three guys at the back would have stood up, probably to beat them up. The tavern is closed. See yourselves out. The bartender raised his voice at Michael. So you do know her. Michael pulled the glass the bartender placed on the table toward him. He took out a water pouch from his inner coat pocket and poured the water into the glass. I lost count of how many times I've said this. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Instead of answering Michael, the bartender signaled the three behind Michael, wordlessly telling them to throw Michael and Gaia out. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 657 Gaia versus everyone in the tavern. I got this. Gaia put the sack containing Puma's head on her chair after she stood up. She cracked her fist. Her eyes turned predatory as though of a seasoned killer. It was evident she was not in the mood for playing. Anyone could see the suppressed rage in her eyes. The bartender looked at her for a moment before turning his gaze back to Michael. He couldn't believe the youngster was letting a girl face these killers. As a man who lived in the southern continent for decades, the bartender could easily differentiate cultivators from southerners. These two were definitely not from the southern continent, which meant they hailed from the cultivation continents. However, no matter how powerful they were in their homelands in the southern continent, they were as weak as babies. At least that's what the bartender thought. Michael slowly took the glass in his hand and took a little sip. He didn't even bother to turn around. You have insurance for this place? Asked Michael. Meanwhile, three tall, bulky, muscular mountains moved toward Gaia. Gaia and Michael were tall, but these three were taller. They were tall enough to raise anyone's eyebrows. If being tall wasn't enough to stand out, they were big enough to win any bodybuilding competition on Earth. Compared to them, Gaia looked smaller, like a child. The three cracked their knuckles. One of them looked at Michael. Last chance, kid. "Leave now and we won't mess up your girl," growled the man. He didn't remove his hood so Michael couldn't see his face in the reflection in the glass. "Try not to kill them," said Michael, completely ignoring the man. "But the more the blood, the better," said Michael. Drawing out Lenora might require them to spill more blood. She was a vampire after all. Michael didn't delude himself by thinking he could get an elder vampire's attention without bloodshed. As much as he liked to avoid bloodshed, some tasks required blood. For instance, the bartender could tell them he knows Lenora or the way to meet Lenora. Instead, he ordered his lackeys to beat them up. A wrong decision on the bartender's path. Gaia was ready to fight Michael himself, let alone these nobodies. "I don't have all day," Gaia coldly threatened the three. She rolled up her sleeves, preparing to beat the crap out of them. The three might have an advantage in size, but they were no match for a furious woman with arch energy coursing through her veins. Their heavy thundering boots made the table nearby tremble. Instead of ganging up on her, only one approached Gaia. The man didn't take Gaia seriously. So, when he reached an arm-reaching distance from Gaia, he tried to put his hand on Gaia's shoulder with the intention of throwing her out. Before his hand could touch Gaia, she grabbed his hand, immediately crushing his hand. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. The man squealed like an injured cat. His scream surprised everyone. But his cry was cut short when Gaia kicked him right between the legs with enough force to dislocate his pelvic bone. Michael grimaced. He almost heard the sound of something shattering. The man lost all his strength and power. Finally, he just collapsed to the ground. So they are not vampires, Michael thought to himself. If he were a vampire, her kick would have hurt him more because vampires had no reproductive organs in their bodies. Instead of traditional means, the vampires reproduced by turning others. In a way, their fangs were their reproductive organs. Bitch dash, the man growled. Unfortunately, Gaia wasn't done with him. She took a step forward, stomping his stomach. Blood gushed out of his mouth. The man curled into a ball, screaming in agony. His scream was cut abruptly short by Gaia as she picked up a chair nearby and bashed it on his head. The two behind him were stunned, just like everyone in the tavern. Using their momentary shock, Gaia grabbed the broken piece of the chair in her hand, leaping onto the two behind her victim. The two of them snapped out of shock. Intuitively, they brought their hands before their faces to defend themselves. The wooden leg was no match for the thug's big gigantic arms. Wood splinters flew in all directions when Gaia bashed the wooden leg on the man's arm. Everyone thought Gaia was done for. Unlike the first one, the two were prepared. They thought Gaia wouldn't be able to surprise them with a low blow. "Fucking bitch," one of the men threw his fist, cursing Gaia. Once again she surprised them with her speed. She swayed her body to the side, avoiding the punch mid-air, grabbed one of the flying wood splinters, and stabbed the man who threw the fist in the eyes. Wasting no time, she punched the man in the chest, pushing him a few meters back before turning her focus to the other. As she calculated, the man tried to kick Gaia in the gut, leaving himself vulnerable. To everyone's shock, Gaia grabbed his leg and threw him onto the other. The man who got stabbed in the eyes screamed in agony until he collided with his buddy. Her throw had enough force behind to make the two of them fly onto the wall behind. The animal heads hanging on the wall tumbled down due to the force of the collision. Everything from Gaia leaping onto them to sending them flying happened in a couple of seconds. It was too fast for a normal human being to comprehend. The bartender's mind failed to see what had just transpired. She moved and fought with speed and strength beyond mortal limits. She took down 3 muscle mountains thrice her size in a couple of seconds. The 3 served as an outlet for her rage. Without giving the 2 a break, she dashed at the 2. Poor bastards didn't even have time to react. She picked up the antlers that fell off the wall and stabbed the man who had his eyes stabbed. "Ah!" he screamed. Luckily, his buddy felt the same pain when Gaia stabbed him with the same antler she used to stab the other. Seeing Gaia stabbing them in the legs repeatedly, another 2 decided to step in. They dashed at Gaia to stop her. The bartender was freaked out when he saw the grin on Michael's face. He had no idea why Michael was smiling at his glass. Unlike the 3, the 2 who decided to save the 3 were neither tall nor muscular. They were just regular dudes, at least one was a dude and the other was a woman. Hearing their footsteps, Gaia jerked her head around. When the 2 saw the predatory eyes of Gaia, they trembled. Fear clutched their hearts, making them question their decision to stop her. But it was too late for them. Gaia picked up a chair and threw it at the 2. She wasn't stingy with force, so the chair hit them with enough force to knock the 2 out. The blood spurted from her victims painted her face red. Her white robes were drenched in their blood. Thursday, Gaia spat the blood went into her mouth. She grabbed a chair, dragging it toward the two who tried to stop her. To Michael's surprise, the tavern didn't seem to have many vampires. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, tell her to stop. The bartender panicked. He tried to crouch down to pick up the crossbow under his shelf. However, Michael simply grabbed the man by his head and smashed it on the counter. You know, if she doesn't vent her anger on those guys, she will be cranky. I don't like her being cranky. So why don't we just sit back and let her do what she does best? Michael whispered into the bartender's ears. Next time when two strangers come asking for information, give them what they want. You are making a big fucking mistake, the bartender growled. What mistake? Michael bashed the bartender's head against the table yet another time. The few bottles lined up on the counter fell off to the ground. Glass shattered into tiny bits and pieces, momentarily taking everyone's gaze from Gaia to Michael. No. On the other hand, the lady who tried to stop Gaia screamed, seeing Gaia raise the chair. Unfortunately, Gaia didn't stop. She brought down the chair with all her might upon them. The two of them were instantly knocked out cold by Gaia. Now tell me, where the fuck is Lenora? Gaia roared. Her mighty roar shook the entire tavern like an earthquake. Seconds passed, turning into minutes. 30 minutes went by in a blink of an eye. At that moment, the tavern was in ruin. All the customers were bleeding on the ground and groaning in pain. There was not a single table that remained intact. She went a little overboard. When she was done, the place reeked of blood and old ale. Standing in the middle of the tavern, Gaia looked like a demon incarnate. The blood of her victims oozed down from her body from head to toe. Finally, Michael let go of the bartender. Once he saw the state of his tavern and the customers, his face lost all color. The man trembled. Demon, that was the first thought that appeared in his mind when he noticed Gaia. Michael slowly placed the glass on the table. He rose from the chair, turning around. First he just adjusted his robes and then he picked up the sack with Puma's head. Is this enough? Michael asked, throwing the sack to the dark corner of the tavern. An oblivious man could see nothing but darkness. For Michael, however, the figure hiding in the darkness was clear as day. Gaia turned her gaze to the corner. Surprisingly, she saw a figure stepping out of the darkness. Lenora, Gaia growled. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 658. Meeting Elder Lenora. Michael bashed the bartender's head once last time, knocking him out cold. Then he came to Gaia's side. He squeezed her hand, wordlessly telling Gaia not to do anything. The figure who Gaia thought Lenora slowly removed her dark hood. It was a brown-haired woman in her late 40s. With an oval face and big round eyes, she looked way different than Elder Lenora. For a moment, Michael thought Lenora was in disguise. However, he was proven wrong when the woman introduced herself. I am Elder Lenora's maid. You have something for Lady Lenora. The maid tilted her head, directing her gaze at the sack lying in the ground a meter away from her. Open and take a look at yourself, said Michael. She slowly bent down, slightly opening the sack to see Puma's head staring at her with wide eyes. I want to meet your elders, including Elder Lenora. What makes you think you can get what you want, ghost? Snickered the maid. He could hear Gaia's teeth grinding against each other. I want peace and information about someone your kind has put a hit on. In exchange, I will give you something that will change the fate of your entire kind. The maid looked a bit surprised by his words. For a moment, she deeply pondered what Ghost had just said. Only the painful groans challenged the silence until the woman decided to speak up. What is it? Asked the maid. Don't waste my time. I will give it only to your elders, not to a maid like you. Take me to Elder Lenora. Michael's voice became stern and cold. He wasn't in the mood to negotiate with a maid. The maid remained still without uttering a word. She will meet you here this Friday at the same time. For your sake, I'm hoping you have something really interesting, said the maid. To Michael's surprise, she faded into thin air. Where is she? Gaia dashed forward to catch the maid, but it was too late. Friday, Michael mumbled under his breath. This Friday was the last day of his Mazeroth holidays. He had to return to Mazeroth. There was no way Michael could postpone meeting Elder Lenora. For Gaia's sake, he had to meet her. If finding Gaia's mother meant he would have to return to Mazeroth a few hours late, he would do it in a heartbeat. Gaia frantically looked around the tavern to locate the maid. Michael intervened to stop her from looking like a crazy person. 2 days, said Michael. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed. In 2 days, we will find out what happened to your mother. It took Michael some convincing to take Gaia out of the tavern instead of traveling to the vampire castle as the Dark Lord and the Dark Queen. Unnecessary complications could arise if Michael entered the vampire castle as the Dark Lord. Thus Michael chose to wait 2 days. Michael used these 2 days to brew more potions for his Majestic, including the plague cure. Then he visited the Sunrise sect to meet with Claire and the elders. They were surprised to hear Michael's request to abolish the king's rule and implement a round table of ministers to rule the kingdom like in the southern continent. Of course, to the outside world, Bradford was ruled by Sunrise sect elders. In reality, however, Michael would make decisions and rule the kingdom from the shadows. This way his enemies wouldn't target Bradford to hurt him. After signing the required parchments, Michael collected the necessary herbs to brew the potions for the vampires. He gave the potion crate to Azazel and ordered him to bury it somewhere in the dark forest. After everything was said and done in the Elon continent, Michael returned to Voldegard Castle. At first, Michael felt somewhat reluctant to leave the Voldegards without ensuring their safety. But Eve reassured him and made some deals with other powerful families in Thera to strengthen her family. He didn't forget about Eve's curse. He paid the system 250,000 badass points to locate an item that could be absorbed by the system and turned into a curse-breaking skill. The bad news was, Michael had no time to visit the treacherous ocean. The good news was, Aladir could create an array to let Michael snake out of the Ukulun realm without being detected by the arrays in Mazeroth. He promised Eve he would break her curse within the next 6 months. To Michael's surprise, Eve didn't seem to care much about whether she lived or not. As far as she was alive, she wanted to make sure the Voldegards remained safe. Michael really felt bad about leaving Eve instead of helping her. Unfortunately, Michael had no choice but to return to Mazeroth. With a warm hug, Eve sent him off to Mazeroth, except Michael didn't teleport to Mazeroth. Instead, he went straight to the Lonely Wyvern Tavern to meet Lenora. Following his goodbye to Eve, Michael met Fedora. Except for Cain, the other two still looked gloomy. They needed time alone, so Michael left them in the dark forest in the care of Azazel. Considering the time, Michael ordered Aladir and Nightmare to return to Mazeroth before he and Gaia. The Lonely Wyvern Tavern looked as gloomy as ever under the moonless dark sky. The dark clouds hovering in the sky, threatening the earth with heavy downpours, added an extra layer of gloominess to the tavern. Except for the rumbling thunder and howling wind, there was no sound in the area. "I've reached the castle." When Michael reached the tavern, he heard Aladir's voice in his head. "Good. Hope your runes work," said Michael. When he met Aladir back in the dark forest, Michael asked the dark elf to ensure no one in Amazaroth could see him and Gaia through their disguise. If it wasn't for the lack of badass points, Michael could have done it using the system. He was saving the points to buy the Silene spell, which would slow down time around him for a short amount of time. Furthermore, he wanted to upgrade all of his spells. It has been a long time since he upgraded them. "They reached Mazeroth?" asked Gaia, walking beside him to the tavern door. Michael nodded. Using his environmental scanning map and spiders, Michael sensed 3 people inside the tavern. The door slowly creaked open. As Michael had sensed, he saw a dark-robed figure, the bartender, and another lady dressed in a creamy white skirt and a big dark hat with red feathers on her head. Unlike when Michael visited the tavern before, the place looked empty. At least, they managed to fix the tables and the fallen trophies when Gaia almost destroyed the place. The bartender glanced at Michael for a moment before turning his focus back to refilling the lady in white's glass. The one standing beside the lady in white resembled the maid Michael met earlier. "Let me do the talking," Michael whispered to Gaia. "This chapter upload first at Novel Bin." Net Gaia nodded. The floor creaked every time Michael took a step. Until now, Michael had faced 2 elder vampires. But those 2 were just saplings compared to the ancient elders like Lenora. Just by being in the same room with her, Michael could feel the terrifying aura being radiated by her. In terms of cultivation, Lenora was at the peak of the fusion stage. After Michael's many experiences with the vampires, he learned a valuable lesson. Vampires couldn't be scaled with mere cultivation standards. Their kind had powers beyond cultivation stages. Thus, Michael dared not to underestimate Lenora. Silence fell over the tavern. In the air, a tinge of blood permeated. The bartender's legs trembled in fear. Michael doubted the red liquid the bartender poured into Lenora's cup was wine. "Take a seat," Lenora's voice chimed, cutting through the silence. She tapped the bar stool beside her. "System, the moment something goes wrong, teleport us to Mazeroth," Michael ordered the system. If push comes to shove, he wanted to be in Mazurto where the vampires held no power. Besides, both Gaia and Michael had the teleportation scroll given by Mazeroth to teleport to the castle grounds. Therefore he didn't have to spend any badass points buying teleportation scrolls from the system. Every step he took forward reminded Michael of the Elder Vampire's latest meeting. When Michael sneaked into their castle to kill Victor, he bugged the entire castle including the round table of vampires. That was how Michael knew Avon was being turned into an elder vampire and their decision to wake something called a Blood Prince. The name itself was ominous enough for Michael to be aware of. At least, Michael had thrown a wrench into the ritual by killing Avon. So he thought. Michael sat beside Lenora and Gaia sat next to Michael. "This is the first time someone wanted to meet me, even after knowing what I am capable of," said Lenora. Her voice was melodious, calm and composed. Any oblivious man wouldn't believe she was a freaking elder vampire capable of destroying a kingdom single-handedly. "You have some big balls, Ghost," Lenora chuckled. Michael sensed the killing intent behind her seductive chuckle. For the first time, Michael opted for the high-risk, high-reward way for Gaia. If everything went according to his plan, Ghost and the vampires could be at peace as well as learn about Gaia's mother. Suppose it wasn't the case, Michael knew he'd have to become the Dark Lord to defeat Lenora. Dark flames and the anti-vampire potions were the only two things in his arsenal that could hurt and probably kill an ancient elder like Lenora. "I like Puma. He served me and my kind well." Lenora took a small sip and slowly put the glass on the table. "You tortured him, didn't you? How else could you have known my name?" Her voice became colder. The temperature around them dropped by several degrees. Nonetheless, Michael showed no signs of fear in his eyes. Torture is a strong word. Let's just say I'm very persuasive. Michael's calmness shocked the bartender and Lenora's maid. Lenora felt something off about the human. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something was definitely strange about Ghost. "I wonder what made you reach out for me," said Lenora. "I want to know about someone you ordered a hit on, Adelia Ashton." As soon as Michael said the name, Lenora clenched her fist. Every single glass bottle shattered into smithereens. The entire trembled tavern. Her eyes turned bloodshot for a moment. Finally, Lenora turned her head to look at Michael. "Adelia Ashton. The Queen of Nagaland, * because it's Diwali festival in my country if you don't know what it is, only one chapter of HBS today. The schedule will be resumed as normal from tomorrow. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone." Chapter 659, Deal with the Vampires. "How do you know her?" asked Gaia. Finally she couldn't keep her mouth shut anymore. Tiske. Lenora slowly shook her head. "What's the rush? You haven't even seen our hospitality yet," said Lenora. She winked at Michael before snapping her fingers. To Michael's surprise, the scenery around them changed. He and Gaia appeared in a gloomy hall dimly lit with torches. At the center of the hall was a large stone round table. Michael immediately recognized the room. This was the meeting hall of the elders. His spiders were still around. He could sense them. "Follow me." Lenora appeared before him. She led the two toward the stone table. The entire hall was silent. As Michael stepped forward, the gentle smell of blood began to permeate the air. The round table slowly opened. Without uttering a word, Michael and Gaia went through the opening and stood in the middle. At the moment, only one stone chair among the 10 was occupied. Soon, figures appeared in the hall one by one. Considering Michael and Gaia had seen them in their surveillance room, they recognized each. The first to appear after Lenora was a brunette. She was Trista. No one would ever think of her as a vampire. She dressed in brown silky robes, leather boots and wore thick red lipstick. She winked at Michael playfully before taking her seat next to Lenora. Following Lenora, Saber entered the room, surprising Gaia with his young look. If she didn't know he was a vampire, Gaia wouldn't throw a second glance at him. He looked like a next-door kid in his teenage years. He still had the baby fat on his cheeks. The two vampires didn't look surprised, which meant they already discussed bringing Michael and Gaia to their castle. However, Michael wondered where they had this conversation and how they communicated. Because he bugged the entire castle, yet he had never seen them together after their discussion about the Blood Prince. Michael patiently waited for Ingram to join them. His fearless eyes surprised the vampires, especially Saber. Just like Lenora, he also felt something strange about the human before him. Saber couldn't find a word to explain this feeling. If he had to, he would say fear. Why did he feel afraid of the human? Saber asked himself. They were night walkers, rulers of the night, and gods among mortals. Yet, the vampires felt a seed of fear sprouting in their hearts. Finally, Michael saw Ingram appear in the hall. The dim torches illuminated his calm-looking face. His ashen hair was neatly tied into a ponytail. Unlike the other elder vampires, he was in armor made of both leather and metal. With the sword dangling on his waist, he looked like the embodiment of the word bravery rather than a vampire. Although there were 10 stone chairs, Michael had never seen all of them get filled. It was always these 4. He recalled seeing a fatty bald vampire when he first bugged the castle. For some reason that vampire was nowhere to be seen. Of course, Michael didn't know Harriet killed Hakken because he created another elder vampire who almost killed Michael and Noah in the alchemy competition. "Is everyone here?" asked Lenora. The others nodded. Everyone remained silent, letting the eerie feeling creep into Michael and Gaia. "So, who killed Puma among the 2 of you?" asked Trista. "I did," said Michael. "When did you figure out he was a night walker?" asked Trista. "When I saw him regenerate and show his fangs." "Let me get this straight," Trista chuckled, leaning forward. "You found he was a night walker, killed him somehow, and thought it's a good idea to track down the one who sent him?" "Not exactly," Michael shook his head. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. "Then tell us, why are you really here?" said Trista. Michael took a deep breath. "I am here to offer something in exchange for information and peace with your kind," said Michael. "Information about her mother, I presume?" Saber calmly said, surprising Michael. He moved his gaze from Trista to Saber. The young vampire leaned back on his stone chair with a smile. "You can hide her face with a mask, but you cannot replace her blood." "A Naga?" Saber glanced at Gaia from head to toe. Both Michael and Gaia were shocked. They didn't expect Saber to find out her origin. Michael felt like he had underestimated the vampires. Not just a Naga. The Princess of Nagaland. The rightful wonder to the throne and the only daughter of Adelia Ashton, Saber slowly spoke. His voice was mixed with admiration and shock for some reason. Since Michael was pretty good at reading people, he could tell Saber definitely had some respect for Adelia. To be honest, Michael had so many questions about Adelia. The woman intrigued him to the core. At first, she was just Gaia's dead mother. Other than that, Michael didn't have any other thoughts about Adelia. But the more he dug deep into Gaia's mother, he was constantly surprised by her. First, Gaia saw a recording left by her mother. She was a member of the Order who asked Gaia to find the Dark Lord. Then, Eladir revealed Adelia's origins as Wraith, one of the founders of the Order. Now he learned Adelia might have been a vampire and somehow earned the right to be hunted by the Death Squad. There were so many mysteries around Adelia. It was like peeling an onion. Secrets kept coming one after another. "You don't seem crippled to me," said Ingram. "Tell me about my mother. Where is she?" Gaia ignored Ingram and questioned them all. Michael tried to stop her, but it was too late. Luckily, the vampires seemed amused by her outrage rather than offended. "You may have misjudged the situation, Your Royal Highness," Lenora chuckled. "You're alive because we felt somehow curious about Puma's death and his strange request to meet us," said Lenora. "In other words, you're walking on a line between life and death, so you better keep us curious," said Trista. There was a hidden murderous intent in their voices. Michael stepped forward. "Elders, I am going to show you something." Michael glanced at the elders. They nodded after a while. Finally, with a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a sparkling gold potion. The position glistened and sparkled like liquid gold. "This is what you were talking about? A potion?" Lenora looked a little bit disappointed. However, Saber felt a strange energy from the potion. "Not a potion, Elder. I found this in the treacherous ocean. It was left by a 6-star alchemist," said Michael. The vampires possessed the ability to tell whether someone was lying or not by sensing their heartbeat and facial signs. Thanks to the system, Michael was able to fool the vampires. Along with the parchment, unfortunately, the parchment crumbled due to time. However, I remember the words. "May thy rulers of night rule the day." This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, the vampires were taken aback by surprise. From their point of view, the human before them was telling them the truth. "At that time, I didn't understand the meaning even after seeing the potion's effect." "What are the effects?" Saber asked. Michael grinned inwards when he saw the curious look in the vampire's eyes. "Offer protection against the sun. Until I learned about the night rulers, I didn't think of this potion as much." "Are you telling us this potion will protect us from the sun?" groaned Lenora. Her normal playful voice disappeared. Instead, she talked in a cold voice. "If my calculations were right, this potion will protect you for at least an hour and a half." With time and resources, you can find a way to make the potion's effect last long. Suddenly Saber waved his hand. An invisible force snatched the potion out of Michael's face. If this didn't work, Saber didn't finish his sentence but let Michael imagine the outcome. You can do whatever you want with me, said Michael. With a nod, Saber disappeared from the hall. Following Saber's disappearance, silence took over the hall. Michael and Gaia remained still. Michael squeezed her hand, wordlessly reassuring her. If his peaceful way didn't work, he wouldn't blink an eye to slaughter the elders. Gaia had never begged him for something. But for the first time she cried for his help. There was nothing he wouldn't do to find Adelia. He must find her. After all, Adelia wasn't just Gaia's mother but a founder and a member of his order. If she was alive, it was his responsibility as the Dark Lord to take care of his loyal followers. Besides, Adelia was family. After a couple of minutes, Saber returned to the hall. This time he wasn't alone. He had an elf dressed in a fancy noble dress with him. The elf looked terrified and Michael could see the sweat beads on his forehead. What happened? Lenora asked Saber. She failed to hide the curiosity in her heart. I survived, the elf said, shivering. Except for Ingram, the other elders looked bewildered. Even the usually calm and composed Saber couldn't hide the excitement. His hand trembled, holding the vial with a few drops of golden liquid in it. Instead of answering, Saber appeared in front of Michael in a blink of an eye. He grabbed Gaia and Michael by his neck, lifting them up off the ground. Despite Saber's scrawny look, he was able to lift Michael and Gaia without breaking a sweat. Tell me, where can I find more? Saber loosened his grip just enough to let Michael barely utter the words. Tell me about Adelia and agree to call off the death squad. If we don't get back to where we came from alive and unharmed, the potions are good as gone, Michael grinned. The information Michael had was crucial to the point that it could change the entire vampire's fate. In other words, Saber can't kill him even if he wishes to. Phase 1 of shocking the vampires with the potion had been completed. Next phase, get the protection of one of the elders and learn about Adelia. Chapter 660, The Blood Prince's Punch. Saber clenched his fist. Seeing Saber lose his calmness stunned the others. Trista and Lenora had never seen Saber like this before, which led them to believe the potion really worked. To their surprise, Saber released the two of them. Michael and Gaia coughed, running their throats for a moment. It worked. Saber turned around and responded to everyone's curious looks. For a moment, Trista and Lenora couldn't believe what they had just heard. No matter how powerful they were, the sun was their ultimate bane. Even the elders were unable to survive the sunlight for a couple of minutes, let alone the minions. It was the only weakness they had besides primordial flames. At least with primordial flames they could somehow kill the flame wielder. With the sun they had no choice. Hence, they never dared to step outside their castles during the day. How many more do you have? Asked Saber. The others were kinda in shock to question Michael, except for Ingram. Michael couldn't read what was going on in Ingram's head. He remained without showing any signs of emotions on his face, as though the potion meant nothing to him. 20, said Michael. What stops us from killing you after you gave us the location? Finally, Lenora snapped out of her shock and questioned Michael. Nothing, Elder. But I'd rather die instantly than live looking over my shoulder my entire life. So here I am taking a leap of faith, said Michael. Besides, I don't see any other way to find Adelia. The elder vampires took a few moments to weigh their options. Although they were brutal and cruel, they were not dumb. These vampires survived all these years by capitalizing on opportunities and working with valuable assets like Ghost. At this moment in time, the Ghost was far more valuable to them as alive than dead. Compared to the potion he gave them, the lives of two half-baked elder vampires and Puma who were stupid and weak enough to get killed was nothing. Moreover, Saber had other plans for Ghost. Saber looked at the others for a moment before nodding at Lenora. Finally, Lenora decided to share what she knew about Adelia with Ghost and Gaia. The one who put the hit on Adelia was Elder Kragan. He's dead. Gaia's heart skipped a beat. But the last time I heard, Adelia ventured into the treacherous ocean, searching for the wise dragon. If I were you, I'd start my search with that dragon. Lenora didn't bother to explain the dangers of venturing into the treacherous ocean. He was just a human. But, since he had given them something crucial and asked them for their mercy, she would call off the death squad until he messes with her kind one more time. How do I know you're telling the truth and not leading us into a death trap? Asked Gaia. Lenora burst into laughter. You don't. But you have no choice either. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Calm to experience faster update speed to Michael, Lenora didn't seem like she was lying. Plus, she had no need to lead them into a death trap. Once we retrieve the rest of the potions, I will call off the death squad. But make no mistake, if you ever kill one of my kind again, I will personally come for your life, Lenora threatened Michael. I will not dare to, Michael bowed slightly. Now the location, asked Saber. Michael slowly moved his hand into his inner coat pocket, making no sudden movements. He was about to retrieve the parchment when a sudden thudding sound made the entire hall tremble. The torches were snuffed out by an invisible force. Darkness fell over them. Saber conjured an orb of light, sending it to hover over them. But the orb could hardly illuminate the place. Something sucked all the light, making the place gloomy. Everything went silent. Acharim, a demonic growl cut through the silence. Immediately Michael's neck hair stood up. A powerful being just appeared in the hall. He sensed the being with his environmental scanning. However, Michael couldn't pinpoint the being's exact location. He tried to move but failed to do so. His body simply refused to move. The hall continued to tremble with each thud. Little by little, the thudding sounded closer and closer to them. Michael's nose twitched due to the overwhelming stink of blood in the air. The orb of light could hardly illuminate the place with its dim red flames. Michael glanced at the elders to see a bewildered look in their eyes. He quickly tried to access the spiders around the hall. To his shock, he sensed no spiders around them. Every single one got destroyed. Warning! 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 Suddenly, several red warning boxes blocked his vision. The system screamed inside his voice. Michael was about to teleport away from the place when he saw a hulking figure step out of the darkness. The figure was gigantic, red, and muscular to the point any oblivious man would be terrified to even look at it. Even the elders looked puny in front of the towering 8-feet humanoid monster. Two dark horns protruded out of each side of the monster's head. The figure looked like the embodiment of the word demon. The figure snarled, revealing its two long fangs. Blood Prince, Michael heard Trista take a step back, sweating from head to toe in utter fear. System. Michael immediately shouted at the system in his mind. At the same time, the Blood Prince dashed at Michael, destroying the stone table between him and Michael. Unfortunately, the Blood Prince's speed was beyond the limits of Michael and everyone in the room. Even the system wasn't fast enough to teleport Michael in time. As a result, the Blood Prince was able to punch Michael in the chest just before Michael disappeared from the hall. Teleportation. Humph, the Blood Prince snickered. His voice resembled the voice of the Dark Lord but several times more demonic, evil, and threatening. The Blood Prince snapped his finger as the orb conjured by Saber shattered into pieces. Once again, pitch-black darkness surrounded them. Usually, vampires could see in darkness. However, the darkness created by the Blood Prince blocked their vision, blinding them completely. No, no. No. A sudden scream from Lenora stunned the elders. Her scream was abruptly cut short as they all heard the sound of flesh getting ripped apart. The elders weren't strangers to this eerie sound. But when it happened to one of them, they all trembled in fear. After a while, silence returned to the hall. The elders remained until the torches around them flickered. Finally, a torch lit up, and when it did, the elders almost screamed in terror. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. The Blood Prince sat on a throne where Michael and Gaia were. He was gnawing on a big piece of meat that resembled a human thigh. Their hearts pounded against their chests. Slowly, their gazes swept across the Blood Prince. In his hand was a head, Lenora's head. Blood trickled down from Lenora's neck. Welcome to the new age of Nightwalkers. The Blood Prince crushed Lenora's head with his bare hand. It created a sickening crunch followed by a burst of evil laughter. The system immediately teleported Michael and Gaia to the Mazeroth castle grounds. The force of the Blood Prince's punch sent them flying even after appearing in the castle ground. They both hit the ground, crashing through the grass field for a few minutes until they came to a halt. Gaia jumped back to her feet since she wasn't hurt. As soon as she got to her feet, she looked at her side to make sure Michael was all right. To her shock, he was on the ground, shaking. His chest smoked as though someone had set fire to his clothes. Human! Gaia screamed. Her knees turned to jelly as she collapsed to the ground beside Michael. One could clearly see the large fist on Michael's chest. The Blood Prince's fist left a clear burning mark on his chest. Furthermore, the wound ate through Michael's skin. Gaia noticed Michael spurting a dark foam out of his mouth. Sudden panic clenched her heart. She emptied a bunch of healing potions into his mouth, hoping they would heal him. However, the healing potion had no effect on Michael. Even after emptying the third bottle into his mouth, His chest still smoked, radiating a strong scent of burning flesh. Professor Steinmeier, Gaia's head jerked aside to see Gilrine. When he noticed Michael on the ground, the smile on his face froze. He rushed at Michael. What happened to him? Gilrine panicked. I don't know. I found him like this. Gaia didn't even know how she was able to answer Gilrine. Her mind was blank in shock. We need to get him to the infirmary. Now. Gilrine took Michael in his arms and stood back to his feet. Gaia didn't see any other choice. They were about to turn around when Gaia saw another figure stepping out of the darkness. With the long black robes and hair, Professor Lane blended in with the night like a chameleon. Professor Lane. Gilrine shouted. Professor Lane came to Gilrine's side. Oh my God, Professor Lane mumbled under his breath. The infirmary cannot save him. Bring him to my office now, Professor Lane instructed Gilrine. For the first time, Gilrine heard Professor Lane show a slight fear in his voice. Gilrine did not waste any time as he ascended into the air. What's happening to him? Gaia couldn't control the tears from flowing out of her eyes. Blood Prince, Professor Steinmeier. He was punched by a Blood Prince. You don't happen to know that, right? Professor Lane questioned her expressionlessly. Professor. Gilrine's shout saved Gaia. They quickly looked up at Gilrine to see Michael's body frantically shaking. Chapter 661. Holy Maiden Rowena's help. The office of Lane was a gloomy and dimly lit room located in the dungeons. The shadowy walls were lined with shelves of large glass jars filled with slimy, revolting things, such as bits of animals and plants, floating in potions of varying colors. The office had a fireplace. At the moment, it was dark and empty. In a corner, Professor Lane kept his private stocks of alchemy ingredients in a cupboard. When Gilrine, Gaia, and Lane reached the office, Lane waved his hand. The runes on the door glowed for a moment before slowly creaking open. Put him there, Lane said, pointing his finger at the empty oak table in the center. As Gilrine placed Michael's shaking body on the table, Lane opened his cupboard and picked up a few potions from the shelf. Gaia held Michael's hand as tight as she could. Her eyes kept forming tears seeing Michael's condition. They both didn't expect the Blood Prince to be there. Furthermore, the Blood Prince was at half-immortal stage. There was no way they could have defeated the Blood Prince. At least, not with their current cultivation stage. Open his mouth, Lane ordered Gilrine. The big man squeezed Michael's jaw, opening his mouth big enough for Lane to pour a green slimy liquid into his mouth. Professor Lane. Is he going to survive? Asked Gilrine. It's a miracle he's even alive, said Lane. Where the hell did he meet a Blood Prince? Gilrine heard Professor Lane before. He was unlucky enough to know about those vile creatures. Unlike Lane, Gilrine never had to face one thanks to the gods. Without answering Gilrine's question, Lane just glanced at Gaia. She remained silent, letting Lane treat Michael. She couldn't even cry out loud or show her care for Michael. It would lead the others to suspect her relationship with Michael, which might lead to catastrophic consequences. Professor Lane, Gilrine called out for Lane. He noticed Ghost's entire body smoke as though someone had set a fire under him. The temperature in the room increased by several degrees. Gilrine felt the heat radiating from his body. What's happening? Gaia panicked. Michael's hands began to burn hers. They were hot enough to make Gaia release his hand. I need cold water, Lane said. Go bring me as much water as possible from the lake, Lane ordered Gaia. Although she felt reluctant to leave Michael's side, she ultimately left the room without wasting precious time. After she left the room, Michael's body began to tremble violently. His body was burning hot. Smoke emerged from every part of his body. Shouldn't we inform Headmaster Wulfric? Asked Gilrine. To Gilrine's surprise, Lane shook his head. No. The headmaster has enough on his plate. A Blood Prince is the last thing he needs right now, said Lane. But Professor Lane, there is no cure for a wound caused by a Blood Prince. If we don't get all the help we need, he's going to die. Gilrine lowered his voice. Usually Lane would agree with Gilrine. There was indeed no cure for a wound caused by a Blood Prince. That was what made the Blood Princes the ultimate force of nature. Just a single touch from a Blood Prince could poison a cultivator's body from within and turn them into a puddle of blood. The Blood Princes were the pure breed of vampires. A typical vampire would suck the blood while a Blood Prince sucks its victim's life force itself with a single touch. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. It was extremely rare for someone to survive a Blood Prince. But even if they did, once the Blood Prince touched the victim, only death awaited. Luckily for Michael, he had almost 1 million badass points after killing Duke Avon in front of the two armies. He ordered the system to heal his body. Otherwise Michael would have died by now. Still, his survival depended on his willpower and Bodhi's ability to withstand the corrosion. When Gaia finally returned to the room, carrying a wooden barrel filled with cold water, she saw the smoking body of Michael. She almost dropped the barrel. With a quick wave of his hand, Lane sucked all the water out of the bucket, forming a large blob of water above Michael. He slowly let the water trickle into Michael, cooling his body. This continued for an hour. They had used almost 10 barrels of water, completely drenching Michael in the water. Despite their efforts, his body refused to cool down. As time passed, his skin slowly turned grayish. What's happening? Gaia felt a lump forming in her throat. She couldn't help blaming herself for Michael's state. If it wasn't for her and her pursuit of her mother, Michael wouldn't have gone to the vampire castle. He took the risk solely for her. "We need something colder," said Lane. Although there was no cure for the Blood Prince's touch, something kept Ghost alive from within. Therefore, Lane wanted this strange force to fight the Blood Prince's touch. All he had to do was buy enough time for Ghost to survive and heal. "He'll bring the ice." Gilrine quickly rushed out of the room, heading for his hut. "What do you want me to do?" asked Gaia. "Unless you have something colder than ice, bring it to me," said Lane. His voice showed no emotion whatsoever. Gaia suddenly remembered the ancient ice core Michael bought in the auction. Unfortunately, the ancient ice core was in Michael's system's storage. Hence, Gaia couldn't get her hands on the ice core. What about cold flames? Suddenly, when Gaia was feeling helpless, a calm voice resonated in the room. The two of them turned their heads to see a girl dressed in sky-blue robes. Her raven black hair fluttered in the wind. When she appeared, the temperature rose because of Michael's body slowly started to drop. A chill air swept across the room. "Rowena," Gaia mumbled under her breath. The last time Gaia saw Rowena, she fought the possessed fire giant. Gaia panicked when she saw Rowena. Several questions emerged in her mind. The first was, what if Rowena finds out Michael is the Dark Lord? They were as good as dead once the Holy Maiden learned the truth about Michael. "Holy Maiden," Lane acknowledged Rowena with a small nod. "It's dangerous to use the cold flames, Holy Maiden," said Lane. He knew Ghost already possessed a primordial flame which might refuse to let another primordial flame enter his body. If the two primordial flames clashed inside his body, the result would be catastrophically bad. For instance, the entire room might explode into pieces along with his body. "The cold flames are the only chance he has," Rowena calmly said. She slowly approached Michael and stood beside Gaia. For a moment, Rowena stared at Gaia without batting an eye. Gaia felt as though Rowena was staring into her very soul itself. Her gaze was cold and piercing. A bad feeling emerged in Gaia's gut. "Wait." When Rowena was about to conjure the cold flames, Gaia stopped her. Just like Lane, Gaia was also concerned about cold flames meeting the dark flames. "Unless you want him to die, you won't stop me again," said Rowena. After a deep thought, Professor Lane nodded. "Let her. This might be his only chance." This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net Gaia couldn't care less about their opinions. She would rather give her life than gamble with his life. However, she saw Michael's finger tap the table. "He moved," Gaia exclaimed. "If you want me to cure you, move your finger one more time," said Rowena. To their surprise, Michael tapped the table with his index finger. Gaia finally heaved a sigh of relief inside. If Michael wanted the cold flames, Gaia knew he must have a way to heal himself with the cold flames. She trusted him. Finally, Gaia stepped aside, letting Rowena conjure the cold flames. As soon as the icy blue flame appeared above Rowena's plan, the temperature in the room dropped to the point they could see their own breath. When Rowena brought the flames closer to Michael's body, a thin layer of ice started to cover his skin. Slowly, Rowena pressed the flames against the burning wound on his chest. Michael's body trembled as the cold flames slowly crept into his body through the wound. Initially, Rowena felt something powerful preventing the cold flames from entering his body. But that strong force faded away, and she didn't find any resistance from his body anymore. "I brought ice dash." Gilrine entered the room with a barrel. His words were abruptly cut short when he saw Rowena in the room. "Holy Maiden." "Shoo!" Rowena shushed Gilrine as he quickly shut his mouth. He sneaked into the room, trying his best not to make any sound. On the other hand, Gaia didn't take her gaze away from Michael, not even for a second. Rowena continued to send the cold flames into Michael's body, removing the Blood Prince's corrosion from his body. Although it looked like a simple task, a simple mistake could end the lives of everyone in the room. Rowena focused like a hawk on the task. This was the hardest task Rowena had performed in her life. Despite the cold temperature in the room, Gaia noticed Rowena sweating. Her face turned pale. Anyone with eyes should see the exhaustion on her face as clear as day. Yet Rowena didn't dare to lose focus. Seeing the holy maiden's state, Professor Lane took out a blue potion from his shelf. He waved the potion. Under their gazes, the blue potion evaporated into a cloud and enveloped Rowena. Her body quickly absorbed the cloud to revitalize itself. The treatment process lasted for 12 hours. Lane and Gilrine left the room, leaving Rowena and Gaia behind. Eventually, the grayness in his skin disappeared. Instead, his skin glowed. Furthermore, his breathing returned to normal. Except for the burning wound on the center of his chest, the rest of his body stopped smoking out. As Gaia was staring at Michael, the cold flames finally disappeared from Rowena's hand. Gaia looked up at Rowena. "What happened?" asked Gaia. "His body needs some time to heal," said Rowena. "Keep him here. He needs the cold flames for at least a week. I will be here tomorrow at the same time." Rowena turned around. She was about to leave the room when Gaia questioned her. "Why help him?" Silence fell over them for a few moments. "I owe him for saving my family." Chapter 662, System Version 7.0. For the next 8 days, Rowena came to Lane's office to treat Michael like clockwork. As a holy maiden, she had no need to help Michael at all. But she was not an ungrateful person. Ghost saved her mother and sister. So Rowena was just returning the favor. Even if she knew Ghost was the Dark Lord, she would have still helped him. On the 9th day after Rowena left Lane's office, Gaia sat on the chair beside Michael, holding his hand as usual. When Lane asked why she was staying with him, Gaia simply said it was her duty to keep every student alive. She also informed him she wanted to be with Ghost in case he woke up. She wanted to be the first one to know what happened to him, at least that's what she said to Lane. The office was gloomy and dark. Except for Michael, only silence and grief accompanied Gaia. Seconds turned minutes and minutes turned hours. Gaia gently brushed Michael's forehead, hoping he would wake up. She didn't know how long she could keep Nightmare in control. The dragon may be kinder than many of his kind, but when someone hurts the people he loves, he would go to any lengths to destroy them. Ever since Nightmare had known what happened to Ghost, he was shouting at Gaia and Aladir to let him go outside. He wanted to burn the vampires to the ground. Only if she wasn't weak, Gaia would have done that already. The night went uneventful until the room suddenly started to become darker and darker. She looked up to see a dark cloud enveloping Michael. Golden lightning bolts appeared out of nowhere, dancing around Michael. Gaia immediately stood up. To her surprise, she saw a movement in his eyes. "Michael." A sudden joy hit her heart, her eyes brightened. As though nature itself had sensed Michael's wakening, dark storm clouds blanketed the clear sky in a few moments. Streaks of lightning flashed across the sky, almost splitting the sky into halves. The howling wind informed the world about Michael's awakening. Finally, Michael's eyes slowly opened. To Gaia's shock, his eyes were pitch black. He slowly rose from the table. There was strange radiation coming from him. Gaia could sense it. The energy radiation was powerful enough to make breathing harder. He cracked his neck, creating a crackling sound. Michael, unknowing to her, fear clenched her heart. She slowly, without making any sudden movement, put her hand on Michael's shoulder. He turned his head. "I am back." His voice sounded deeper and more demonic than before. Surprisingly, Michael didn't use any voice modulators. His natural voice turned like this. It took Michael a moment to adjust his voice. "I am back," Michael repeated the words. This time in his normal human voice. Despite the darkness, the spooky voice, and the strange energy, Gaia jumped at him, hugging him as tight as she could. "I am so sorry," Gaia sobbed. It was obvious she blamed herself for what happened to Michael. However, Michael solely blamed himself. If he wasn't weak, the Blood Prince couldn't have hurt him. "What? I experienced near-death experiences like having breakfast," Michael smiled. In her joy of seeing Michael wake up, Gaia failed to notice the troubled look in his eyes. The Blood Prince's punch affected him to the point he had to spend 300,000 badass points to temporarily heal himself. According to the system, he had to break through to the half-immortal stage within the next 6 months. Otherwise, his body would decay and he had to start everything from the beginning. That meant a new body at the first stage of cultivation. Simply put, everything he worked hard and built would go down the drain. As long as Michael was alive, he wouldn't let that happen. Thanks to Rowena and her cold flames, Michael woke up in just 8 days instead of the system's estimation of 3 months. His current situation was a blessing in disguise. Plus, it made venturing into the treacherous ocean a high priority. Killing the mutated beasts in the treacherous ocean was the fastest way to reach the half-immortal stage. But he must forget to upgrade the system to level 7. Because of his actions on the battlefield, he had 600,000 points even after spending 300,000 to heal himself. We cannot be seen like this here. They'll be here until morning. You make sure Elides is all set in my room to activate the array, said Michael. After a long moment of thinking, Gaia eventually decided to leave him. The moment Gaia left the room, Michael willed the system to show how many gold coins he had in the system's storage. His total net worth at this point was 25 million. He kept 11 million with him in the storage and the rest in the Grand Spire Bank. The latter was his backup funds. Without a second thought, Michael ordered the system to convert the entire 11 million into badass points. I am sick of this slow-paced journey of mine, Michael mumbled. He played too safe and it resulted in him getting his ass kicked. The number of enemies he had grew by the day. To be honest, Michael became sick of it. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, it was time to remove some heads and root out some pests in his life. Conversion completed. The host has received 440,000 badass points. Michael took almost 8 months to upgrade the system from version 5 to 6. In stark contrast, he decided to upgrade the system to version 7 in just 2 weeks. All because of his actions on the battlefield. He almost wished for more wars in this world so he could earn millions of badass points in a single day. System, upgrade yourself. Wow. That's really fast. I wish there are more blood princes out there to knock some sense into you, host. The system ridiculed Michael. The system upgrade will take 6 hours. You won't be able to use the system during the upgrade process. I expect a free spell token from you, system, said Michael. He was still sitting on the table. If you ask nicely, the system might give you one. Michael jumped to the ground from the table. Please. To Michael's surprise, the system gave him no response. It began to upgrade itself while Michael laid back on the chair Gaia was sitting on. Since there was nothing else to do until the system finished its upgrade process, Michael closed his eyes to meditate. 6 hours flew by in a blink of an eye. Michael opened his eyes when he heard the system's notification in his mind. The system upgrade is completed. Current system level 7. 0. The host can now have up to 35 subordinates. The host has received 1 free spell token as a gift for upgrading the system. You'll take the Silene spell, please, Michael said. He didn't even bother to take a look at the spells in the store. Ding, the host has successfully acquired the level 1 Silenes. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, the bubble lasts for 5 seconds. The area of effect is a 0.5 meter radius. Michael heaved a sigh of relief. His next task was to get enough experience points. Michael had 2 plans to raise his level. To get the first plan running, Michael contacted Azazel. My lord, Azazel, initiate plan Dark Sweep. Start with the heads of the 3 big sects. Can I coordinate with Lady Kaplan, my lord? Asked Azazel. Yes, plan Dark Sweep was Michael's quick way to get experience points. Up to this moment, Azazel watched the feeds in the surveillance room and listed potential targets for the order of death to kill. Now that Azazel had a physical body, Michael was able to send his butler to kill some of the targets, starting with the sect masters of the 3 big sections. After their deaths, there would be a power vacuum. Hopefully, this power vacuum would destabilize the sects enough for Elder Ella and Claire to take over the sects entirely or bite a chunk out of these sections. Once the 3 heads were dead, Michael could not only receive experience points, but the status of the Sunrise sect would also rise beyond his expectations. Use the Molten Plague with care, Michael instructed Azazel. Before leaving for Amazaroth, he gave Azazel a few crates of Molten Plague, just to use in a situation like this. I will, my lord. I received information about a secret meeting between the 3 heads from Lady Kaplan. It's a good opportunity to kill all the 3 heads. When is this meeting? In 12 hours, answered Azazel. Then I expect the good news in 12 hours. Azazel, don't get caught. I want, my lord, Azazel calmly answered Michael. Confidence reeked in his voice instead of any uncertainty. After cutting the communication with Azazel, Michael quickly took a glance at his status. Since he had upgraded the system, the experience level cap for level up in the fusion stage reduced from 1 million to 800,000. Killing a fusion stage cultivator would give him 500,000 experience points. He roughly needed 3 dead fusion stage cultivators to level up. Lucky for him, each sect leader was at the fusion stage. "You're up," Michael heard Lane's voice from behind. Michael slowly turned around to see Professor Lane enter the office with his usual expressionless face. "Thanks to you, Professor. Sit." Professor Lane pointed at the chair before the oak table before sitting on his chair. Although Michael had reached Professor Lane's cultivation level and was just a few items away from reaching 6-star alchemist, he respected the man. His knowledge and experience was a droplet compared to Professor Lane's ocean-like knowledge. Professor Lane might be the first man Michael looked up to as a mentor after Spectre. "Usually, I don't poke my nose into students' business. I simply don't care," said Lane. Judging by his tone, Michael could tell it was indeed the case. "But your matter is different. You endangered Mazeroth by almost bringing a blood prince to our doorstep. What do you have to say for yourself?" "The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone." Chapter 663, The Fall of the Three Big Sects in Elon. When the last light disappeared over the horizon, darkness enveloped the world. Everything beneath the dark sky was blanketed by puffy snow. The howling wind breezed through the trees. Falling snow embraced the trees with its cold embrace, turning the green trees white. Except for a few torches to illuminate the snow-covered paths, the rest of the city of Rosegate slept in darkness. Rosegate was one of the 4 duchies in Kingdom Kethen and also the only kingdom that didn't participate in the recent war between Icefair, Pentown, and Flamefair. Almost everyone in Rosegate was sleeping peacefully inside their homes except for the 3 sect leaders. They held a meeting inside a brightly lit room. Everyone sat around an oak table, taking sips out of the golden chalices. One of them was Sadie Kaplan. She accompanied the sect leader of Silvermoon, Ursula Colt. She was the prettiest woman in the room. Even Sadie paled in comparison in terms of beauty. Ursula let her silvery hair free and wore enchanting blue robes which showed her deep cleavage. The other 2 sect leaders were men. One of them was Lancelot Morningstar, the sect leader of the Morningstar. Lancelot was a fairly built man with striking golden hair. His neatly combed hair was tied into a ponytail and the stubble beard gave him a certain charm with the ladies. The one who sat next to him was Garrett Eyre, the sect leader of Golden Valley. Unlike Lancelot, Garrett was a big bulky man with a bushy beard. Despite the cold weather, Garrett was dressed in a vest, leaving his big arms exposed to the coldness, and leather pants. At the moment, they all shared the same concerned look. "Are we going to sit here all day and stare at each other or come up with some plan?" asked Lancelot. "We definitely cannot destroy them. Not with all their alliances and connections," said Garrett. Contrary to what someone would expect from a big bulky man like Garrett, he was surprisingly calm and collected. Simply put, Garrett was brawn with brains. That was what made him one of the most dangerous men in the Elon continent. "It's only a matter of time before they make an attempt to take over our sections." How many sects they had already swallowed? 10? 20? 15 to be exact, said Ursula. It was an enormous number. In a short period of time, the Sunrise sect had gone from a declined sect to one of the most powerful sects in Elon. The flag bearer of the takeovers, Allah was an unstoppable force when it came to pursuing sect leaders to join the Sunrise sect. At first, the 3 big sects didn't mind the Sunrise sect taking over a few declined sections. They thought it was a lost cause since those sects were on the brink of closing down. However, as time passed, the Sunrise sect made unrefusable offers to the sects that were running without any problems. One by one they took over all the sects in Bredia, Drattle, and most of the sects in Kethen. In the sheer number of disciples, they were getting close to each of the 3 big sections. My little birds told me Ella and Claire are eyeing for the sects in the royal land, said Ursula. Hearing them bitch about the growth of the Sunrise sect made Sadie proud of her friend, Ghost. He joined the sect with nothing and built it from the ground up to challenge the 3 big sects themselves. Of course, Claire, the elders, and Ella played a big role in the rise, but Ghost was the one who started everything. There is only one thing we can do at this point, make counteroffers to those sections. In other words, we take over sects before the Sunrise sect could, said Garrett. No, Lancelot banged the table with his fist. I wouldn't let those street dogs step into my sect and spoil the great name of Morningstar, gnarled Lancelot. Among the 3 big sects, Morningstar had the most intense recruiting process. Even if someone had heaven-defying talent, if they were not from a noble background, the odds of their placement in Morningstar would be next to nothing. The Morningstar sect handpicked noble talents. But now, even the nobles were considering joining the Sunrise sect due to the abundance of cultivation resources available in the sect. Moreover, the Sunrise sect had the best mentors to guide the youngsters in their cultivation. Once again, ghost pills and potions played a huge role in producing talents left and right. We could have used King Breedia to destroy the sect because of his enmity with Ghost. But after what Ghost did at his daughter's engagement gala, I don't think King Breedia would even breathe in Ghost's direction, said Garrett. Do we even have a plan, or are we just here to bitch about their growth? This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, it's you too who's in trouble. My Sadie here is a good friend of Ghost. So as long as Ghost lives, Silvermoon is safe from the takeovers. Ursula grinned, taking a small sip of wine from the chalice. Garrett and Lancelot looked at Sadie for a moment. Sadie dear, Ursula turned her gaze to Sadie. What's your thought about all this? Ursula asked Sadie. If you ask me, I'd say leave them be. There's no use in kicking a hornet's nest, said Sadie. The trio was surprised by her answer. I don't see any harm in turning the 3 big sects into 4 big sections. Now we are all bitching on an assumption the Sunrise sect will try to take over our sections. Even if they did try, just refuse their offer. It's that simple, said Sadie. Pretty girl, it's not that simple, Lancelot gritted his teeth. He always thought Silvermoon and the girls were beneath them. Only because they were big and influential enough to rival Morningstar, he tolerated their existence. Power is an addiction, and that bitch Claire and Elle are way deep in it. They wouldn't stop until there were no other sects in Elon than the Sunrise sect. If you don't believe me, my spies with Ella told me she was indeed talking with some of the elders in my sect. The moment I return to the sect, have to make an example out of these traitors, snickered Lancelot. So they had already begun the takeover of our sects, Garrett sighed. It's not that I don't believe your spies, but if what they said was true, we have a reason to wage war against them. They might be powerful, but they cannot win against the 3 of us combined, said Ursula. Lancelot, Garrett turned his gaze to Lancelot. Don't kill the elders. Make them record their shady deals with Ella in a recording stone. We use that as leverage to ask Claire's hand in marriage for someone worse. We force Claire to kill him. Use that as an excuse to wage a war against them. It's a classic way that works every single time, chuckled Garrett. Sadie sighed inwards, almost feeling pity for these fools. Although Sadie seemed to be in cahoots with Ursula, Sadie hated Ursula to the core. She had turned the Silvermoon into a whole house. The entire continent called the Silvermoon girls bitches due to their cultivation style and the task they performed under the order of Ursula. She picked up poor little girls and turned them into harlots when they came of age. With the Dark Lord's help, Sadie could finally take the Silvermoon in a different direction. For that to happen, Ursula had to die first. Lady Kaplan, it's time. Suddenly, Sadie heard Azazel's voice in her head. Her heartbeat slowly increased. Taking a deep breath, Sadie put her hands under the table and took out a vial of the molten plague from her space ring. She released the vapor into the air. Unknown to the 3 sect leaders, they began to breathe in the poisonous air. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. I have an infamous man whore in the sect. It's time he gets a chance to settle in life, Lancelot chuckled devilishly. To a bad marriage, Ursula raised her chalice for a toast. But when raised her chalice, she coughed. Following her, Garrett also coughed violently. What the fuck? Lancelot growled, but he too fell victim to the violent cough. They were confused. Suddenly the bright chandelier flickered. Flower barrier. To their shock, Sadie waved her hand, casting a spell around them. In a blink of an eye, a wall made of flowers appeared around them, trapping them inside. Sadie, Ursula growled. Her eyes turned bloodshot. It was obvious to them that Sadie had poisoned them somehow, because she was the only one who remained without coughing. Garrett quickly reached out for the battle axe behind him as Lancelot tried to cast a counterspell. To Lancelot's shock, he couldn't feel the celestial energy around him. While the chandelier was flickering, Ursula saw a figure coming through the blue flower wall around them. The flowers turned black and crumbled to ashes when the figure touched the wall. The moment they saw the figure, their eyes went wide. Fear clutched their hearts tightly. At this moment in time, not a single one remained without knowing the name the Dark Lord or Lucifer. His black robes, the dark clouds around him, and the flickering lights were dead giveaways. Dark Lord, Ursula mumbled. She crawled backward in utter fear. Unlike the trio, Sadie was nonchalant. She just took a step back, letting the Dark Lord handle them. Garrett finally managed to grab the battle axe. He was about to swing the axe at the Dark Lord when 2 black beams shot out of the Dark Lord's eyes, penetrating straight through Garrett's head. The battle axe fell from his hand with a loud thud, followed by his lifeless corpse. Lancelot was in shock. But before he could do anything, The Dark Lord turned his gaze toward him as the dark beams cut Lancelot's head clean off of his shoulder. Blood spurted out from his neck, painting the table red. Sadie, help me. Ursula lost all the courage to fight as a result of the fear toxin. She grabbed Sadie's leg, begging for her help. Go to hell, bitch. Sadie grabbed Ursula by her hair and threw her to the Dark Lord. Sadie saw the Dark Lord cup Ursula's face. Ursula struggled frantically. However, her struggle only lasted for a few seconds as the Dark Lord fired the dark beams straight through Ursula's head. The beams went through Ursula's eyes, forming 2 big holes in her head. The trio survived almost 100 years in the world. But their light of life was snuffed out by the Dark Lord in a few seconds. From tomorrow the Silver Moon sect is yours, said the Dark Lord to Sadie. Chapter 664. Rowena and Ghost meet each other. While Azazel was slaughtering Michael's potential foes dressed as the Dark Lord, Michael sat in his room with Eladir, enjoying the experience points. By killing the 3 sect leaders, Michael earned 1.5 million badass points. Since the level cap to reach the next level in the fusion stage was 800,000 experience points after the system upgrade, he leveled up once. Currently, Michael was a fusion stage level 8 cultivator with just 100,000 experience points away from reaching level 9. Michael leaned back on his chair, watching Eladir drawing glowing runes on the floor. Under the red carpet, Eladir created an array that would let Michael travel between the Aquilan realm and the outside world. Is it ready yet? Asked Michael. Do you know how many defense arrays are around Mazeroth? Eladir answered Michael's question with a question of his own. No idea, Michael shrugged. 128. It's not simply to pass through all of them undetected. So give me some time. Eladir sounded annoyed. You don't have to be a bitch about it, Michael chuckled. He was in a good mood despite his current situation. If he didn't break through to the half-immortal stage in 6 months, his life would be reset. Thanks to Rowena, he had more than enough time to reach the half-immortal stage. The big obstacle that stood between him and reaching the half-immortal stage was system upgrade. Luckily he had upgraded the system. So he only needed approximately 1 million experience points to reach the half-immortal stage. In other words, he was just a 1 fusion stage kill away from the half-immortal stage. Hopefully, Azazel would find some targets to slaughter. What's your plan for Adelia? Are you any closer to finding a cure for vampirism? Asked Eladir. Ever since he heard what happened to Adelia, he has been nagging Michael to find Adelia. It wasn't like Michael didn't want to find Adelia. He almost lost his life trying to find her. Rather, Adelia was clever enough to hide from the rest of the world for years. His best bet was to find the wise dragon residing somewhere in the treacherous ocean. However, when it comes to curing the vampires, Michael had other plans. The vampires were a deadly force to be reckoned with. If he had an army of vampires, he would be unstoppable. Curing them would turn them into mere mortals, which was a waste of such a powerful force. Hence, Michael wanted to get rid of their weaknesses instead of stripping their power. What's the point of curing them when I can make them better? Eladir stopped working on the array for a moment to look at Michael. His eyes glimmered with shock. What do you mean? Eladir creased his brows. Think about it. All I have is enemies. Everywhere I turn, I see nothing but people who want my head on a pike. The Guardians, the Sky Hall, the vampires, the Queen and her minions, and tomorrow there will be someone else. The order is still in the baby phase. I am sick of having too many enemies and too little help. So I am going to build an army of vampires. I just need to get rid of their lust for blood and weakness for the sunlight. Once I do that, they won't be just cured. They'd be better, said Michael. Eladir sensed the excitement in his voice. Unfortunately, Eladir wasn't convinced by Michael's reasoning. What about people like Adelia? Those who were forced to be a vampire? This chapter upload first at novelbin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. Wow, did you drop your brain today? You're not listening to me. If you take away the bloodlust and weakness for sunlight from a vampire, they will be just cultivators. Michael leaned forward, slapping the back of Eladir's back. In other words, I am curing them, said Michael. As long as they don't have any side effects. After all, she is your family, Eladir hissed. I almost died for her. That's not enough? Michael slowly shook his head. Come on, let's go. We have a damn class to attend. I feel like a school kid. Michael rubbed his temples. He was frustrated thinking about attending classes, especially the useless ones like close combat, spell casting, and history of cultivation. The only subject that interested Michael was alchemy, unlike almost all the students in the House of Alchemy. They all hated Lane. Speaking of Lane, Professor Lane interrogated Michael about the blood prints and how he came into contact with one. Although Michael was an excellent liar, he didn't take the risk of lying to Lane. Thus, Michael told him everything except the part where he met the vampires to find Adelia. Since it was all true, Lane believed Michael. Surprisingly, he also advised Michael to stay as far as possible from the vampires. Furthermore, he also asked a few things about Voldegard's. Michael still couldn't believe Lane was Julian Voldegard's uncle. Apparently, Lane left the family for some reason after a fallout with Julian's father. If Lane didn't leave the Voldegard family, Lane would have been the family head, not Julian's father. Since Michael and Lane were close, Michael told Lane about Eve's curse. A partial reason for telling Lane about the curse was to change the topic from the vampires. Because of Michael's decision to tell Lane, as the head of House Alchemists, Lane granted Michael 2 weeks' leave. So could leave Amazaroth for the treacherous ocean whenever he wanted. He was just waiting to reach fusion stage level 9. Then he would leave for the treacherous ocean. Unfortunately, Gaia had to stay in Mazeroth, to avoid raising suspicion. Michael was still figuring out how to tell Gaia to stay. When it comes to her mother, she was an adamant person. Soon, Eladir and Michael navigated through the corridors and reached the combat classroom. Many of the House Alchemist students greeted Michael with waves and fist bumps. As usual, Michael and Elodie went straight to the last bench and put down their books and quills on the table. The two of them leaned back against the wall, closing their eyes to take a short nap. In the entire classroom, only they liked to sit on the last bench and nap during Gaia's class. The others were too scared even to bat an eye once she had entered the classroom. 30 minutes passed in a blink of an eye. Many thought Professor Steinmeier missed the class. Even Michael wondered where Gaia went. His train of thought was cut short by a gentle voice. "Excuse me," Michael heard a girl's voice. At first, he thought the voice was coming from the table next to them. He was proven wrong when someone tapped his shoulder twice. Eladir was long asleep to the point he was snoring. Michael, on the other, slowly opened his eyes. A blonde girl with bubbly eyes stared at him. She held the books against her chest and wore emerald green robes, which meant she was an alchemist. But Michael had never seen her before. "Can I sit here?" she asked. Michael looked around the classroom and found several empty benches, especially among the girls. So Michael wondered why the hell this girl wanted to sit next to him on the last bench at that. "Knock yourself out," Michael sighed and slid aside. After all, he didn't own the classroom to tell the girl to scurry off. To Michael's surprise, the girl smiled after sitting next to him and extended her hand to shake his hand. "I am Ruby, this chapter upload first at Novel Bin." Neat. As soon as Michael heard the name, it flooded his mind with memories he had buried deep in his head. Ruby, the images of Ruby in Michael's orphanage flashed across his eyes. She was like a big sister to Michael. He killed for the first time in his life to protect Ruby. Even before transmigrating to this strange new world, Michael visited Ruby to ensure she was happy. For a few moments, Michael's mind was filled with the memories of Ruby. He remained silent until the girl waved her hand before his face. "Hello," Michael snapped back to reality. "We don't actually say our names here," said Michael. The girl grimaced. I completely forgot about that. Keep this between ourselves, okay?" said the girl. Michael nodded. He had zero clues that the girl was none other than Rowena Winston. The spell she cast on herself was too powerful for the environmental scanning or the X-ray eyes to see through her disguise. After saving Michael with the cold flames, she decided to spend some time with the person who saved her family not once but 3 times. Furthermore, she felt some strange connection with Ghost when she sent the cold flames into his body. She wanted to find the root cause of this strange new feeling. "Is he always like this?" Ruby asked, looking at Eladir. Michael smiled. "Pretty much," said Michael. "I am not very good at alchemy," said Ruby. "So, will you be able to help me if I'm stuck at some point?" Michael looked at her. She seemed genuinely asking for his help. Usually, Michael would avoid teaching anyone except Olivia, but the name Ruby was kinda his weakness. So Michael sighed inside and nodded. "Will do." Once again, Michael and Rowena shook each other's hands without knowing the truth. This was the beginning of Rowena and Michael's relationship. Unfortunately, they both didn't know where it would take them. Chapter 665. Not so friendly duel. Rowena didn't know Ghost was the Dark Lord, and Michael didn't know Ruby was actually the Holy Maiden, Rowena Winston. Without knowing each other's secret identity, they conversed like old friends. Since both of them were siblings, they became friends more quickly than one would expect. The usually silent Rowena felt comfortable and friendly with Ghost as though she was walking to Noah. Michael explained some of the fundamentals of alchemy to Ruby, in exchange for some battle tips. To Michael's surprise, Ruby seemed very competent in battle arts. She talked about war formations, battle tactics, and controlling flames to great extent. Their conversation went on for almost 15 minutes until Gaia finally entered the classroom. Her glance swept across the hall. She slowly walked behind the ceramic table located before the green board. After staring at the students for a while, she flicked her wrist as a silver parchment appeared in her hand. She opened it up for the students to see, but except for the front row students, the others couldn't read the words. "I have in my hand the second-year Battle of the Houses circular," said Gaia. She amplified her voice with arch energy for every student to hear her. "Many of you may know about this, but if you don't, let me give the gist. Each student in each house has to pick a challenger from within their house or from the other to engage in a friendly tournament. It's not a battle tournament. Instead, you will be given a flag when your challenger accepts the challenge. Defend the flag from your challenger. That's it. If you are a daredevil alchemist who wants to challenge someone from the warrior house, you have to defend yourself using potions, spells, begging, anything. If you're a rune master, you will use runes to defend your flag. If you're a blacksmith, you build stuff to fortify your area." The students looked excited to show what they could do. Many had already fixed their challengers in their minds. Hearing their excited murmur, Gaia rolled her eyes. "Don't be too quick to get excited. Since the headmaster will be watching the duel, I decided to spice things up. I allowed the seniors to participate in the duel. So you better pray you don't get a challenge from a senior. Of course, you have the right to decline the challenge, but it won't look good on you. Chicken." Gaia ridiculed those who wanted to back off if a senior issued a challenge to them. However, Michael felt excited. There was no one in his current batch who could defeat him. Not that the seniors could defeat Michael, but battling seniors would make him get more badass points when he mops the floor with them. The last time he faced a senior named Diego, he almost killed the guy. Michael wondered whether he still holds a grudge against him. "Professor Steinmeier," an elven girl raised her hand. "What is it?" asked Gaia. "How many challenges one could get and issue?" asked the elf. "As many as you like. If you feel daring, be my guest, challenge anyone you want how many times you want. The duel will last for 3 days, so everyone should better be ready," said Gaia. "You seem happy." Rowena turned her head to see a smile on Michael's face. "Just wondering who should I challenge and who might challenge me? What if I challenge you?" Ruby tilted her head. "I will decline." Rowena was surprised by his answer. He didn't even consider it. However, he didn't seem like he underestimated her. Rather, he looked like he already had someone in mind who might challenge him. "Now the seniors will enter this hall, and if they feel like it, they might pick you up on a challenge." Gaia turned her gaze to the door as the students from the senior class entered the hall in a neat line. This chapter upload first at novel.bin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelnext.com to experience faster update speed. "Aren't you gonna wake him up?" Rowena asked, looking at Eladir. The dark elf was exhausted enough to sleep without bothering about anything. He just leaned against the wall and slept peacefully. Gaia stepped aside, letting the seniors take a good look at their juniors. Among the seniors, Michael's eyes fell on the 4 strongest and most famous students: Deacon Saunders, Bethany White, Diego Carter, Erica Dawson, and Elliot Watson. As Michael expected, Diego's eyes turned predatory when he saw Michael on the last bench. To rile Diego up, Michael didn't even look at him. "Feel free to talk shit about each other." Gaia jumped on the table and prepared to watch the students pick up their challengers. "I pick you." Diego's voice cut through all the noises. Rowena looked at Diego's eyes and saw deep hatred in them. Everyone turned their heads to see Michael. Nope. To their shock, Michael rejected the challenge outright without a second thought. "I am bored of kicking the crap out of you. Just pick someone weak like you." Some of the dwarves in the hall burst into laughter. Even the orcs who saw how the battle between Michael and Diego went furrowed their creases. They really didn't think Diego had a single chance against Michael. Seeing Diego getting ridiculed by the juniors, his 4 friends as well as the seniors clenched their fists. He wasn't wrong. Like pouring fuel into a burning fire, Gaia chuckled. "Last time you challenged him, Gilryan had to carry you to the infirmary." Some of the senior students who hated Diego joined the laughter, making Diego into a joke. Diego's eyes turned blood red with intense anger and hatred. He wanted to rip Michael to shreds. For a few moments, nothing but laughter echoed through the hall. "I challenge you." The laughter was cut short by Deacon's thick voice. He stepped forward, flaunting his chiseled chest and long black hair. "Why is he shirtless?" Rowena whispered to Michael. Michael wondered the same. Granted, Deacon had a magazine-worthy physique, probably due to forging stuff and working in a forge too much. Although many, especially girls, drooled at his bare upper body, Michael felt like he was being a cringe. Deacon would look like a scrawny kid if Michael removed his robes. At the moment, Michael was too disappointed in Elliot to bitch about Deacon's wardrobe. "I don't need you to save my face," Diego growled. "I am not saving your face, I am saving our class." Deacon shut Diego up. The students looked between Michael and Deacon. "I accept," said Michael. "If you have any weird manly bets, go crazy," said Gaia. She knew how much Michael enjoyed beating famous people up. So she just made the competition a little bit more interesting. "If I win, you have to apologize to Diego in front of all Mazroth." "If I win?" asked Michael with a snicker. "What do you want?" Deacon didn't sound like he was being arrogant. Michael sensed no arrogance in his voice, instead he felt trust and confidence in his abilities. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, I want you to put on a shirt. Michael's answer surprised everyone, including Deacon. Rowena chuckled inside. The dwarves were the ones to first laugh and clap for Michael. The dwarves really started to like Michael despite their racial differences. For a moment Deacon didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But eventually he nodded. Following their dramatic challenge, the students went on picking whoever they wanted to battle. Many alchemists played it safe by picking a fellow alchemist instead of someone from the other houses. It made sense and was a perfectly logical decision. Not everyone was Michael. To Michael's surprise, Ruby got picked by an elf in the warrior house. She accepted the challenge without even giving it a second thought. Eladir on the other hand picked by an orc who got irritated by Eladir's lack of focus on the class. Because Eladir was asleep when the orc issued a challenge, Gaia accepted the challenge as a punishment for sleeping in the class. After everything was said and done, Gaia finally announced when the duel will start. "You have 3 days to prepare. Each house will have its storeroom open for you. So knock yourselves out. The duel will begin sharply at 8 o'clock in the morning at the arena. Bring your games with you." Class dismissed. Gaia left the hall before the seniors and the other students. Since the professor went outside, the seniors remained in the class for a while. Diego shoved Deacon aside to make his way to Michael. "Hey, wake up." Michael didn't notice Diego as he was trying to wake Eladir up. "Look," Rowena nudged Michael in the hand with her elbow. Michael turned and saw Diego approaching him with gritted teeth. His 4 friends followed him behind as Bethany tried to stop Diego from reaching Michael. She didn't want to cause a ruckus again. Among the students, Victoria and Edith stared at the scene with pure curiosity, especially Victoria. She wanted to witness how Ghost was going to handle Diego. If it wasn't for Deacon, Victoria would have challenged Ghost, just to see who was the most powerful among them. When Diego reached the last bench, he slammed his fist on the table, waking up Eladir. "What the heck is happening?" The dark elf yawned, stretching his muscles. Then he noticed Diego staring at Michael with eyes full of killing intent and hatred. Michael didn't react much. He just leaned back. "You made a huge mistake, pal," growled Diego. Most of the students stopped their chit-chatting to focus on Diego. "That is?" Michael dragged his words as though he had no idea what Diego was talking about. "Diego," Bethany called for Diego. She placed her hand on his shoulder but he pushed aside her hand. "Listen to you buddies and save yourselves further embarrassment," said Michael. He slowly stood up, followed by Eladir and Rowena. He came face to face with Diego. Since Michael was taller than Diego, he looked down at Diego with a ridiculing smirk. "You may have bested me earlier, but it won't happen again." When just get out of my face. Diego's words were cut short as Michael nudged him aside with his broad shoulder and walked away from him. Arrogance is weakness disguised as strength. It will only lead you one way down. When Michael was passing Elliot, he heard these words from him. Instead of responding to Elliot, Michael walked away. He preferred to talk in action rather than words. In 3 days he would show the difference between him and all the others. Chapter 666. Nightmares. Question. 3 days flew by in a blink of an eye. In the 3-day, Azazel, Arya, and Sadie ended Michael's potential foes who planned to interrupt the Sunrise Sect's rise. Thanks to the trio's perfect coordination, the assassinations went without a hitch. As a result, Michael reached the fusion stage 10 and was just 300,000 experience points away from breathing through to the half-immortal stage. Finally, having subordinates and an order paid off for Michael. He couldn't have earned experience points this fast without them. Now that the Dark Lord was killing people while Ghost was in Mazroth, even the Sea Folk wouldn't think of Ghost as the Dark Lord. "Are you ready for today's duel?" Michael slowly opened his eyes to see Nightmare sitting atop his chest. Michael took a short nap to make himself reinvigorated. Aladir on the other hand didn't even bother to think about the duel. Instead, he focused on finishing the teleportation array and finally he managed to finish it. Now Michael could travel back and forth without buying a teleportation scroll from the system. Furthermore, the defense arrays in Amazaroth wouldn't detect Michael. Deacon is at the core strengthening stage. I am at the steps of the half-immortal stage. There is no duel. It's going to be me kicking his ass in front of all the Mazeroth, Michael said, playing with Nightmare's growing horns. What if Deacon sensed your cultivation level? Asked Nightmare. He would have still gone for it, said Michael. I think so too. But still, I want to see what a 4-star blacksmith can do, said Nightmare. Even Michael wanted to see the capabilities of a blacksmith in a battle. He wondered how Deacon would utilize his talents in the duel. The more amazing things Deacon does, the more badass points he would receive by defeating him. Aladir. Michael turned his gaze toward Aladir. The half-elf was sitting before his work table and busy trying to create some new runes. He finally slowly turned his head around after Michael called him. Don't make it look too easy. Apparently the headmaster will be there. So we have to play it safe. Wulfric, that old bastard. You know him? Michael rose from the bed with a tinge of curiosity in his eyes. He grabbed Nightmare gently and kept the dragon on his lap. He took Nightmare's front legs and made him do a little dance while talking to Aladir. The gesture showed Aladir of the Dark Lord's playful side. The more time Aladir spent with Michael, the more he realized that Skyhall pushed Michael to be the Dark Lord. If he was left alone, Aladir knew he would have lived his life peacefully. By stripping the Dark Lord of everything, the Skyhall dug its own grave. His powers grew by the day. Aladir sensed it. Although he acted calm and composed when he was with Michael, Aladir was afraid of the Dark Lord deep down. He couldn't even imagine how powerful the Dark Lord would be after stepping into the half-immortal stage, the start of the Dark Lord's godhood. I do, Aladir nodded his head. Tell me about him, asked Michael. You know the usual. An orphan with immense talent. Chosen by the Mazeroth when he was little. He studied, taught, and became the headmaster. No one has a clear idea how old he is. All I know is he must be an immortal. Speaking about? What are the stages above half-immortal? Asked Michael. Immortal, half-celestial, celestial. After the celestial stage, your body can leave this world and venture into the universe out there. This chapter upload first at NovelBin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Why would anyone do that? Asked Michael. He was genuinely curious to see what's the point of leaving this world when it has so much to provide. As far as Michael was concerned, he wouldn't go out until he fully controlled this world and got bored with it. He wasn't a fan of going somewhere else, starting from the beginning and working his way up again and again. To find a better world, I think. Nightmare almost burst into laughter. Can't they make this world a better place? Asked Nightmare. To do that, you have to go through the Skyhall. That, my little dragon, is no small feat. When you end up on Skyhall's radar, you're doomed to live a miserable life. No offense to you though, Aladir said to Michael. Michael shook his head. None taken. You were right. They did make my life miserable. The Skyhall took something from me and I will take everything from them. His eyes turned predatory. Deep hatred and killing intent radiated from his body. Both Nightmare and Aladir sensed it. But Michael quickly controlled his emotions so the room wouldn't grow darker. He got slightly better at manipulating the element of darkness after almost nearly dying at the hands of the Blood Prince. Have you met him? Asked Michael. When Michael asked this question, Aladir's mind went blank. He couldn't think of a single place or time he had met Wulfric. No matter how hard he thought, he simply couldn't find a memory of Wulfric in his meeting. Are you all right? Asked Nightmare, looking at the bewildered look on Aladir's face. Yeah. I didn't meet him. So who imprisoned you? Do you think Wulfric knew about your imprisonment? After all, you spent centuries in the Ukulun realm. It made sense for Wulfric to know about his imprisonment. However, Aladir couldn't find any memories of Wulfric's involvement in the imprisonment. How could he? Wulfric removed all the memories related to him before Michael saved Aladir. I don't think so, Aladir shook his head. Bullshit, rebuked Michael. You were under his nose all the time and you're saying he doesn't know about it? No way. Time must have degraded your memories, said Michael. Silence fell over them. After long deep thinking, Eldri opened his mouth. There is a chance someone from the Skyhall had removed specific memories, said Aladir. Shock and surprise emerged in Nightmare's eyes. If that's the case, what memories didn't they want you to have? Must be something pretty important. Michael rubbed his chin. You created the ritual to send me to Earth, right? What do you remember about that? You were in prison when they performed the ritual. So who performed the ritual? What were the requirements for this ritual except for the one that my mother gave me up willingly? Asked Michael. After learning that his mother gave him up willingly, Michael didn't bother to investigate the ritual because there was no need to. He saw no point in dwelling in the past or trying to decode the ritual. But he felt curious when he realized there might be a chance they messed with Elidar's memories. If they did remove Elidar's memoirs, he wanted to know which one. Blood of Celestial Phoenix Ashes. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Elidar listed out everything needed for the ritual. But none of them seemed out of the ordinary. They were nothing but typical rare things to perform the ritual. Are there any specific requirements about the one who performs the ritual? Asked Nightmare. Must be at least an immortal. But the ritual came with a drawback. Whoever performs the ritual will have their souls explode into pieces. In other words, they would die at the end of the ritual. That's removed the headmaster from the list since he's alive, said Nightmare. Unless there was someone who witnessed the ritual or we found your... Elidar paused his words. My mother, I don't have a chance to know the truth. But if they were able to remove memories, it's possible that woman didn't even know she gave birth to me. Michael's hatred ran deep. Hence, he used the words that woman instead of mother. He hated his real family to the point he didn't even bother to find them. If a powerful organization like the Sky Hall forced him to give up his child, Michael would either kill them all or die rather than give up his child. No amount of torture could make him do such a thing. Well, I will get my answers when I burn the Sky Hall and the Guardians to the ground, said Michael. Do you remember asking me about the God of Light? Elidar suddenly asked Michael. Yeah. I think Noah might be one, answered Michael. Light spells, drawing power from the light, darkness weakening him, Andreas choosing him to be the successor and trains to defeat the Dark Lord. These were the exact words spoken by Elidar after Michael defeated the Elder Vampire with Noah. At first I thought, if Noah is the god of light and I am the god of darkness, we may be somehow related. But when I tested Sabrina's blood against mine, we shared no connections whatsoever, said Michael. Why did you ask me that suddenly? Asked Michael. Nothing. I just thought Andreas might have some ideas. Ideas about what? Asked Michael. On the other hand, Nightmare was deep in thinking about something else. The ritual and my memories, don't even think about asking Andreas. The moment we tell Noah that we know about Andreas' existence, Andreas will turn his focus on us or do some weird shit to figure out my secret, said Michael. Moreover, the system warned him not to touch Noah until he upgraded the system to level 8. This meant Michael had to be cautious every step of the way when it comes to Noah. That was the reason Michael always kept a distance between Noah and his family. His future meant more than his past. Let's go out. It's time. Michael finally left the bed. He felt excited about the duel because he would be able to reap hundreds of thousands of badass points. But when he was about to turn the doorknob and leave, Nightmare's question halted his steps. Ghosty, what if Sabrina wasn't Lady Diana's real daughter? Nightmare's question surprised both Michael and Elidar. His question made sense to Elidar. According to everything Eildiri had heard about Noah and his family, heaven-defying talent and godly powers ran within their family. Noah might be the god of light and Rowena was the holy maiden. So Elidar wouldn't be surprised if the god of darkness was born in the Winston family. Michael slowly turned to look back at Nightmare. The dragon tilted his head to the side and questioned Michael. What if we take Lady Diana's blood and test it again? The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 667. The Friendly Duel begins. The grand arena for the Friendly Duel was all set and filled with students. Among the 7 batches in Mazeroth, only the 6th and 7th batches participated in the duel. The rest of them were there to cheer for their favorite senior brother or sister. Hundreds of seats were raised in stands around the pitch so the spectators were high enough to see what was going on. Every second stand was decorated with the colors of one house, and every other stand with the colors of the opposing house. Surprisingly, the staff, headmaster, and professors sat with the students instead of special seating. From above, the arena looked in the shape of an oval. It was at least 500 feet long and 200 feet wide. The students from the 2 competing batches gathered around in the hall beneath the spectator seats, and Michael was one of them. He stood beside Rowena and Elidar, waiting for their turn. Outside where they were, Headmistress Kayla Martin slowly rose from her seat. With a single wave of her hand, she sent a wave, silencing the students. When the arena completely fell silent, she began to speak, amplifying her voice with celestial energy. Let us have a joyous, entertaining, safe, friendly duel. This is an event to create joyful memories, not to start blood feuds. Remember that. But do your best to impress our guests. Kayla Martin looked at the few ashen-haired old people sitting beside her. They might offer you an invitation to join the most prestigious organization in the world, the Sky Hall. As soon as Kayla Martin uttered these words, many students gasped in shock. They all stared at the three elderly figures with wide eyes. Without wasting much time, Kayla waved her hand. Now for the rules, said Kayla Martin. The two doors on each side slowly opened. The one who walked out of the door was none other than Gaia. She leaped from one side and landed in the center of the arena in a blink of an eye. We have placed several defense and healing arrays in the arena to ensure the students' safety. Rules are simple. One student will have a flag and the other will have to take the flag and go through this hoop. As she said, Gaia flicked her wrist. A golden hoop materialized in the sky. If you defend the flag from your opponent for 5 minutes, you win. You can use everything at your disposal. To make the duel fair, your cultivation stage will be suppressed to the core formation stage, said Gaia. The rules seem simple. Because everyone would be forced to fight and defend as a core formation stage cultivator, many lost their advantage. As a result, the duel became fair for all. Every student had to rely on their specialization to win the duel. Students, please step through the door according to your numbers, Michael heard Gaia's voice. They all received a silver card with a number etched in red before entering the arena. The two who held number 1 were Ruby and an elf from the House Warrior. Good luck, said Michael. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, tell that to the elf, Ruby calmly said before walking through the crowd. The moment Ruby and the elf stepped into the arena, the feet of the arena materialized above the students. In the mirror they could see Ruby and the elf making their way to the center. Gaia floated near the golden hoop. When the two competitors reached the center, Gaia threw a tiny blue flag to the elf from above. Since he challenged Ruby, he had to defend the flag from her. After the elf caught the flag, Gaia clapped her hands together as two bright lights appeared almost 50 meters away from the golden hoop. The emerald green light symbolized the alchemy house while the silver one symbolized the House of Warriors. Go to your designated areas, said Gaia. With a simple nod, the elf and Ruby went to the glow and stood, basking in the light. You have a minute to prepare yourself, instructed Gaia. Warriors. 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 The majority of the arena supported the elf by cheering the word warriors as loud as they could. Michael ignored those cheers and focused on Ruby, who remained calm as the sea. The elf waved his hand before taking out a golden bow and a quiver filled with obsidian arrows. He then stuck the blue flag behind him on the ground. Meanwhile, Rowena remembered doing nothing. Many thought she had given up before even the duel, while some thought she was being arrogant. After hearing Ruby talk about formations, battle tactics, and combat skills in great detail, Michael was curious to see what this strange new girl could do in a real battle. No one was stupid enough to think the elf would go easy on her. The minute passed in a blink of an eye. Time's up. Let the friendly duel begin. A thunderous bell rang in the arena. Finally, the friendly duel between Ruby and the elf began with the cheers of all the students. The moment the light covering them disappeared, the elf fired an arrow at Rowena. It soared through the air, leaving a blurry trail. To everyone's shock, Rowena grabbed the arrow without breaking a sweat. The elf was shocked, but it wasn't enough for Rowena to stop him from firing arrow after arrow at Rowena. But the result was the same. She dashed forward, catching every arrow the elf fired. In a few moments she had a handful of arrows. Almost a minute had passed since the duel began. Rowena almost reached the elf. When everyone, including Michael himself, thought Rowena would close the gap between them, she threw all the arrows in the air. The students looked up at the arrows in the air. As the arrows reached their maximum height, Rowena closed her eyes for a moment and sent a pale blue wave of energy toward the elf. The wave transformed itself into a tube in the middle of the way. Suddenly the ethereal tube leaped into the air. Before the elf could react or fire another arrow, the tube fell down, prisoning the elf within. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, the tube trembled slightly. Soon all the arrows in the air soared through the air toward the tube. They all rained into the tube from above with enough force to make some students close their eyes. They thought the elf was being skewered by his own arrows. Arg! The elf screamed from within. Luckily for the elf, the arrows only penetrated his shoulders and feet. With a simple leap, Rowena landed next to the tube. She slowly placed her hand on the tube as it faded away into thin air. The elf was bleeding and groaning in agonizing pain. He couldn't even lift his finger, let alone his bow. Rowena waved her hand as the flag flew straight into her hand. The students were in shock, especially the students of House Warriors. Never in a million years had they expected an alchemist to defeat one of their own so easily. When they thought Rowena was about to fly through the loop to end the duel, she surprised them all by punching the elf in the face. His nose bone shattered with a sickening crunch. The force and sudden pain made the elf lose consciousness in an instant. The elf stumbled down on the arrows. Some of the arrows penetrated his back, drawing more blood out of his body. Throwing a last cold glance at the elf, Rowena leaped into the air and flew straight through the hoop. The students from House Alchemy rose from their seats to cheer for Ruby. Their thunderous roar echoed through the arena. She defeated the elf within 2 minutes. Except for Professor Lane, the other professors clapped for Ruby. They were impressed by her. "Yo 66, is that your girlfriend?" some of the dwarves asked Michael. "What makes you think that?" asked Michael. "Because she is a freak like you, ha." The dwarves burst into laughter. "That pony challenged a wrong human," another dwarf laughed, ridiculing the elves. The dwarves never wasted an opportunity to ridicule the elves. The elves hated both Ruby and that elf for getting his butt kicked by a human girl. Judging by the look in their eyes, the elf would definitely receive another beating from the elves when he returns to his room. The alchemists are really icing the warriors, but this year, the dwarves continued to rile up the elves. They had a good laugh. From the corner of the hall, Diego stared at Michael with eyes full of hatred. Following Ruby's victory, the students saw several duels where the warriors outshined everyone. Only some of the runemasters and blacksmiths managed to defeat the students from warrior houses. The others, especially the alchemists, got their shit kicked out of them. Since the house warriors held a grudge against the alchemists because of Michael and Ruby's first victory, they didn't hold back at all. Many alchemists would have lost their lives if it wasn't for the healing arrays. When the sun began to set on the horizon, the students began to roar the names Deacon and 66. In Mazeroth, the final year students were allowed to use their real names. Since they would leave Mazeroth afterward, Wulfric allowed them to reveal their names so their friendship could continue even after leaving Mazeroth. Hence, they cheered for Deacon using his name and Michael with his given number. The students got their wishes to come true. The moment they saw Deacon and Michael, the students roared. All the students rose from their seats to get a good look at the ground. Even Victoria and Edith couldn't remain seated anymore. Michael slowly made his way to the center, cracking his neck. The god of darkness, Wulfric, who sat beside Kayla Martin, leaned forward. Finally, he met Michael in person instead of his glass orb. Wulfric had never felt such immense power from anyone in his life. Even Harriet's power paled in comparison with his. He couldn't even imagine how powerful he would be after entering his godhood. As usual, Gaia gave Deacon a flag since he was the one who challenged Michael. After getting the flag, Deacon went to the crimson red light symbolizing the house blacksmiths. In contrast, Michael went to the emerald green light. Chapter 668. Winning the duel. Everyone felt revitalized when they saw Deacon and Michael on the ground. Their cheers died down due to the overwhelming excitement. Except for Rubus' battle, every battle went according to their guesses. None of the matches had two equally strong competitors. Even though Michael was an alchemist, not a single student underestimated him. "Let the battle begin," said Gaia. Her voice swept across the area. Without wasting time, Deacon flicked his wrist as a tall and wide metal box materialized on the ground before him. He quickly stepped on the box. To Michael's surprise, the metal box transformed itself by forming a metal armor on Deacon. The armor pieces covered him up from his legs to his head. In a few blinks of an eye, Deacon suited up completely. The silver plate armor didn't leave a single place on Deacon's body exposed. After adorning the armor, Deacon looked a foot taller and wider. Slowly he raised his hand, taunting Michael to come closer. The armor and the way Deacon suited up surprised Michael. It was like in the Iron Man movie, except Deacon's armor resembled a typical knight armor rather than Iron Man's armor. In addition to the armor, Michael noticed several runes glowing in various colors. Bethany White, Deacon's fiancée, and Diego's love enhanced the armor's attributes by placing several runes. Since she was a 4-star rune master, the runes on the armor were pretty powerful. Many thought Deacon's odds of defeating Michael went way up. That was badass. Michael couldn't help admiring Deacon's suit of armor. But despite everything, Michael felt excited. Defeating an armored Deacon would get him more badass points than Deacon without armor. Thanks to Deacon's badass suit-up action, Michael could be more badass by winning this duel and their bet. Michael didn't waste any time. Deacon had the advantage of defending the flag. If he defended it for 3 minutes he will win. Michael had to take the flag which was stuck between the armor and Deacon's chest. Wasting no time, Michael dashed at Deacon, casting the lightning dash. Because of the evening sky and the darkness, he was more powerful than he was in the morning. He left golden streaks of lightning in his trail. Many students saw nothing but a blur. But before Michael could close the gap between them, Deacon raised his hand. Suddenly, a fireball shot out of Deacon's arm with a loud boom. Sparks of fire flew as smoke puffed out of the armor. Everyone, including Michael, was shocked. The fireball soared through the sky, creating a deafening sound. The golden streaks of lightning and the fiery crimson-red fireball clashed in the middle. A loud boom echoed through the arena along with a powerful shockwave. The fireball exploded into smithereens, producing a thick cloud where it clashed with the golden lightning streaks. Deacon put his arm down. All of a sudden, a powerful gust of wind blasted away the smoke, revealing Michael. He stood there unscathed with the black shield in his hand. Many people gasped in shock. He blocked the fireball with a shield and remained still. Like everyone, Deacon was stunned. A small grin emerged on Michael's face. The system notifications rang continuously in his head. The number of badass points went from 40,000 to 300,000 in mere moments. Still, Michael did not give Deacon another chance to fire another fireball. Once again, Michael dashed at Deacon. This time, Michael closed the gap before Deacon could react. Although they were both at the core formation stage, the darkness boosted Michael's power. Surprisingly, Deacon's armor was flexible. He swung his metal arm left and right, trying to swat away Michael. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. Many, including Gaia, expected Michael to punch the armor with all his might. But he surprised them by doing something completely unexpected. While running around Deacon's armor, Michael smashed emerald green vials on the armor. Glass vials shattered when they came into contact with Deacon's armor. If Michael was to punch the armor, he would be able to make a dent in the armor because of the runes. They protected and made the armor quite strong. However, end of the day, the armor was metal. And Michael was an alchemist with potions to corrode and melt metals. The students saw the silver armor turning green. When they looked closer, they saw green goo covering Deacon. Deacon immediately sensed the threat. He tried to get the green goo off of his armor. The green goo was a special potion Michael created in his free time. After seeing the beast on the battlefield, Michael wanted to have ways to defuse metal weapons. So he came up with the Metal Eater. It was several times stronger than hydrochloric acid. Even with such a powerful acid, the armor was able to withstand instead of completely melting down. Deacon moved his hand left and right to get a hold of Michael. After failing to grab Michael with his hands, Deacon used his entire body to bear hug Michael. His daring maneuver was fruitful as he finally grabbed Michael. Deacon tried to squeeze Michael. With armor, Deacon was extremely strong. His hands wrapped around Michael's waist. Michael grabbed Deacon's shoulder and pushed himself back to avoid being squeezed. Although he was able to stop being squeezed, the acid got onto his emerald green robes. Time was running out. Suddenly, Michael headbutted Deacon. The force of the hit stunned Deacon for a moment. Without giving Deacon time to retaliate, Michael used his feet to push himself out of Deacon's grab. At the same time of the push, Michael cast the wind blast. The sudden blast of wind pushed Deacon backward while throwing Michael out of Deacon's hold. "How does it feel like to taste your own medicine?" Deacon snickered. Michael couldn't see his face through the metal helmet, but he could feel the arrogant smile on Deacon's face. The acid ate through Michael's robes in a few blinks of an eye. Under everyone's gazes, Michael grabbed his robe and tore it away, finally revealing his bare upper body to the crowd. The students were stunned, especially the female students. They almost drooled at his chiseled body. Every piece of muscle had clear definitions as though his body was made from a special place. Wulfric and the staff raised their brows, not because of the muscles but because of the scars on his body. The entire was riddled with scars, burn wounds, and marks. Ignoring the sound of gasps in the crowd, Michael cracked his neck. "You have a minute?" said Gaia. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. 60 seconds more than enough. Michael's words oozed with confidence. Bolts of lightning crackled all around his body, almost covering him like a golden blanket. At this moment he looked like the god of lightning. In a blink of an eye, Michael dashed at Deacon. This time he left after images on his trail. Deacon didn't even have time to raise his hands to cast a spell when Michael hit Deacon in the chest. The force of Michael's punch sent Deacon flying. The heavy metal hit the ground with a loud thud. Deacon left a trail of dust for several meters. Michael didn't give any time for Deacon to pick himself up. He landed on Deacon's chest with a single leap. The emerald green alchemy flames covered his hands. Since Wulfric was here, Michael didn't use the dark flames. Using his flame-covered hands, Michael grabbed Deacon's chest plate. Arg! Michael's biceps flexed up as he roared, tearing the chest plate in half. With a final thundering roar, Michael completely tore off the armor and took the flag from Deacon's chest. Michael threw the flag into the air before smashing Deacon's head between the two ripped metal pieces. Deacon felt his head being smashed by two hammers. Everything turned dark as he got knocked cold. After knocking out Deacon, Michael shot to the sky like an arrow. He grabbed the flag in the mid-sky. Throwing a final glance at Deacon, he flew straight through the golden hoop, finishing the duel. Everyone clapped and let out thunderous cheers for Michael. The alchemists were extremely proud of Michael. Today, Michael had become a role model for many first-year alchemists. He proved that an alchemist could defeat anyone. First, he defeated Diego, and now he crushed Deacon, a 4-star blacksmith. The orcs, dwarves, and even some of the elves clapped. They couldn't help admiring Michael. Meanwhile, Michael was extremely happy. Not because he defeated Deacon, but because of the 1 million badass points he received. He handed over the flag to Gaia. She gave an approving nod. Eventually, under the thunderous cheers, Michael went through the door that he came from to join the others. After Michael's battle, a few of them battled it out, but none were as entertaining as Michael's battle. Eventually, the first day of the friendly duel came to an end. Michael returned to his room, laid back on the bed, and started to ponder how to spend the million badass coins. What to do? Michael asked himself. He thought about buying new spells for a moment, but after taking a look at his status window, he chose not to. Instead, he decided to upgrade the existing spells as much as he could with the points he had. His instincts told him to strengthen himself before venturing into the treacherous ocean. As the first step, Michael upgraded the Eyes of Doom, Energy Devourer, and Soul Eater. They were the low-level spell in his arsenal. In a blink of an eye, he spent 400,000 badass points. The 3 spells had reached level 5 after the upgrade. That was a simple task. The difficult one was which spell to upgrade next. He was in deep thinking. After a while, Michael decided to hold on to the points so he could upgrade whichever spell he needed the most in the treacherous ocean or use them to buy something else. Finally, Michael closed the system and his eyes for a good night's sleep. He wanted to get some sleep before venturing into the treacherous ocean again. Who knew how many dangers he would face this time? Chapter 669, Meeting of Michael and Victoria Barnes. The next day, when the first light appeared on the horizon, dark chilly clouds blanketed the sun. Snow pure as an innocent child blessed the earth with its puffy whiteness. The trees shed their leaves, welcoming the winter with a warm embrace. The winter brought black and whiteness along with a bone-chilling coldness. Everything in Mazeroth looked white. The black lake resembled a floor made of obsidian. Mazeroth castle towers wore puffy snow-like hats. The students, especially the first years, rushed outside to play in the snow. Several students showed their imagination through various statues made of ice. Another group showed their lust for destruction by destroying those statues. Nonetheless, pure fun was just as abundant as the snow in Mazeroth. Back in his room, Michael slowly opened his eyes. He felt the chillness in the air and the joyful shots from the outside. He stretched his arm, pulling aside the curtains to see the heavy snow rain through the window. So the winter is here, Michael yawned. He jumped back from the bed and started doing push-ups to warm his body as usual. It took Michael almost 15 minutes to freshen up. Although cultivators didn't need baths, Michael's old habits followed him to the new world. Hence, Michael had never started a day without taking a bath and brushing his teeth. Wondering how to convince Gaia to stay behind while he ventures into the treacherous ocean, Michael walked out of his room. He was on his way to the arena so he could watch how Eladir fared in the duel. To Michael's surprise, the common room was filled with a crowd. Why is everyone here? Michael thought to himself. Usually, the alchemy students would greet Michael with wide grins and fist bumps. But at this moment, none of them dared to move an inch. They all stood around something. So no specialization is inferior to another one. You cannot compare one with another. If you reach the top of your specialization, you won't have to fight. Michael heard a calm voice. Immediately the voice made Michael think of a wise old man. But he didn't sense anyone in his environmental scanning. He glanced at the room to find Ruby. She wasn't in the room. Learn to make the world a better place. Do not let the power corrupt you, my children. For some reason, Michael felt like these words were directed at him. Michael was curious. He wanted to see the voice's owner. That's all the time I have now. If a higher force allowed us, we will meet again. Unfortunately, the man seemed to have finished his gathering with the students. Michael slowly squeezed through the students to reach the front line. He was more curious than cautious. When he reached the front, he saw an old man with a long white beard and round glasses hanging on his nose. He was neither too tall nor too short. His body was hidden within the extravagant purple robes. As Michael imagined, the man looked wise, gentle, and an embodiment of calmness. "Here you are," the man welcomed Michael with a gentle smile. "They wanted to wake you up, but I didn't allow them. Did you rest well?" The man asked in a grandfatherly tone. "Headmaster," Michael was stunned. It was Wulfric, the headmaster of Mazeroth himself. What surprised him more was Michael didn't even sense the man's presence. Even when he met Wulfric face to face, Michael couldn't sense his cultivation stage. But his neck hair tingled. Deep within, Michael felt a strange surge of energy. Every fiber in Michael's body warned Michael of the powerful being before him. One thing was for sure, Wulfric was much more powerful than Michael thought he was. "How about you walk me outside?" asked Wulfric. Michael wanted to get as far as possible from the man. However, he didn't have a choice but to nod. "It'd be my pleasure, headmaster," said Michael. The students around Michael felt jealous. He got to talk to the headmaster alone. Only Michael knew the danger he was in. Having no other choice, Michael walked beside Wulfric. "Among the 4 seasons, winter might be my favorite. What about you?" asked Wulfric. "I think I like all of them, headmaster," said Michael. "Do you know why I like winter? It's the perfect balance of light and darkness, as all things should be. Don't you agree?" Michael felt a chill running down his spine. Despite the cold, Michael sweated beneath his robes. Silence fell over them. They both walked through the corridor in silence. "Balance, yes," Michael nodded, breaking the silence. He didn't want to make things awkward. This year might be Mazeroth's golden age. "We will receive yet another talented alchemist," said Wulfric. Michael creased his furrows. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net, if you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. Noah Winston. You might have heard about him. Although Michael expected this deep down, it was still a bit surprising to hear it from Wulfric. "I do know him, headmaster," said Michael. "Are you a friend of his?" asked Wulfric. "We just know each other." "It's a small world, headmaster." Despite everything, Michael remained calm. Luckily, Wulfric and Michael reached the outside, where Wulfric stretched his arm to collect some of the falling snow. Even the strongest blizzards start with a single snowflake. Just like a long blood feud or lifelong friendship start with a single decision. Wulfric patted Michael on the shoulder before ascending to the sky. Michael waited until Wulfric completely disappeared from his sight. As soon as he disappeared, Michael turned around and rushed back to his room. "Hey, what did the headmaster say to you? Did he give you any pointers?" Several students questioned Michael when they saw him back. But Michael ignored all of them. He rushed to his room. "Gaia?" Michael immediately contacted Gaia. "Eladir, Nightmare." Without waiting for Gaia to respond, Michael contacted Eladir and Nightmare. "I am in the middle of a class. Are you alright? You sound worried." Michael heard Gaia's voice in his head. "Drop everything you're doing and get back to my room ASAP," said Michael. "Anything happened?" asked Gaia. "No time to explain. Do what I say now." He also ordered Eladir and Nightmare to come to his room. While waiting for them, Michael upgraded the environmental scanning and paid the system a sum of badass points to strengthen the Eyes of Darkness. The moment the system finished upgrading the spells, Michael closed his eyes. He spread his senses around him. His eyes abruptly opened. Shock and panic glimmered in his eyes. The room grew gloomier as a dark shroud enveloped Michael. He looked up. Suddenly, the sound of something shattering resonated in the air. The level 8 environmental scanning exposed the surveillance spell put on Michael. "System, can you trace the origin of that surveillance spell?" asked Michael. The system sensed the origin is from somewhere in the Oculun realm. But system version 9 required to pinpoint the exact location, said the system. The system's words confirmed Michael's suspicion. Michael spent 200,000 badass points to increase the darkness manipulation from 28% to 36%. As a result, his Eyes of Darkness received an ability to see through disguises. After meeting Wulfric and learning about the surveillance spell put around him, Michael had a feeling there might be people of Sky Hall around him in disguise. "How can I be this careless and stupid?" Michael punched the wall, creating a fist-size hole in the wall. "I was being watched all this time," Michael gritted his teeth. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Nady's anger was cut short by someone outside his door. Michael sensed a core formation level cultivator knocking on the door. Judging by the outline of the silhouette, it was a female. System, if something goes wrong, do whatever you want and get me, Gaia, Elodie, and Nightmare the hell out of here. Noted host. Even the system sounded serious. Michael slowly made his way to the door and opened it. To his surprise, it was Edith who stood outside his door. What do you want? Michael was not in the mood to entertain Noah's girlfriend. Hence, his tone was not his usual friendly calm one. Edith was slightly surprised by his response. But she didn't show any emotion on her face. After all, she was here to ask Ghost about something important, not to pick a fight with him. Someone is waiting to meet you. I don't have time for this. If they want to meet me, ask them to come here. Michael was about to close the door when Edith put her hand on the door, stopping Michael. Sorry for this, Edith snickered. The next moment, Michael felt the space around him distort. In a blink of an eye, the scenery around him changed from his cozy room to a mountain top. Michael saw several floating mountains around him. He could tell he was in the Ukulun realm, but not exactly where in the Ukulun realm. My sincerest apologies, Ghost. You left me with no choice. Michael looked over his shoulder and saw Edith. She's a good girl. Just a little bit stubborn, Edith chuckled. Her best friend was the prettiest and on the way to becoming the most powerful woman in the world. Who wouldn't like her? Edith doubted Ghost would be an exception. Who? Asked Michael. He controlled his impulse to rip Edith to shreds for teleporting him without his consent. She was lucky to be Layla's younger sister. You will see. Follow me. Edith led Michael through the snow. There was nothing but snow around him as far as he could see. Michael remained calm. He didn't want to do anything stupid before knowing what was happening. After following Edith for a couple of minutes, Michael almost reached the edge of the floating mountain. He was above the clouds. He could see the puffy clouds stretching endlessly around him. The alchemist robes he wore fluttered chaotically in the wind. After a while, Michael got annoyed and willed the system to equip his black robes. Finally, Edith stopped walking and turned around. Nice, you need to look your best. Edith gave an approving nod. What are we doing here? Asked Michael. You are really lucky, Ghost. Throughout these years she has received proposals in hundreds. She rejected them all. But for the first time she showed interest in you. So it's only fair you two meet each other. Michael creased his brows. I know it's sudden. But please stay here and meet her. You will like her, Edith said in a gentle tone. Happiness was visible in her eyes. Michael felt so annoyed and irritated by Edith. He was in the process of leaving Mazeroth for good. Because of her, his plans were getting delayed. Michael, where are you? I am in your room with Eladir. Michael heard Gaia's voice. I'll be with you in a minute, Michael said, turning around to leave. He was about to take a step forward when he sensed a powerful being in his environmental scanning. You asked me who asked you to meet her, right? It's her. Edith looked up. Victoria Barnes. The Princess of Thusia. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 670. Meeting of Michael and Victoria Barnes 2. The moment Michael heard these words, his mind went blank. A ringing sound continued to resonate in his head. Everything from the images of Abra's first meeting with Victoria to the sanctuary burning in front of his eyes flashed across him. His body and hands shivered in pure rage. Meanwhile, Victoria landed near Edith. She looked at Ghost's back, having no idea who was in front of her. Lila, said Michael. The name immediately put a frown on Victoria's face. She used the name to infiltrate the sanctuary. Except for Abras, some elders in the sanctuary, General Booth and her father, no one outside knew the name she used. But somehow Ghost uttered the name. Edith, on the other hand, thought he had said her elder sister's name. Michael slowly turned around. His eyes were bloodshot. All the veins on his face bulged up. Edith also noticed him shivering. Victoria still didn't figure out his identity because of Michael's beard. With a flick of his wrist, Michael took out a dagger. Edith's body tensed up, but Victoria remained calm. Do you remember me, Lila? Asked Michael, surprising Victoria with his question. His voice was cold. Any oblivious man could sense the deep hatred in his tone. But Victoria had no idea. As far as she knew, he was Ghost. Seeing Victoria have no response, Michael pressed the dagger against his face, slowly shaving the beard. Victoria's heartbeat steadily increased. When Michael shaved his beard completely, her heart skipped a beat. The face of Ghost reminded Lila of someone she had forgotten long ago, Abras. She simply couldn't believe what she was seeing. Abras, Victoria mumbled. The last time she saw Abras, she stabbed him in the heart. There was no way he could have survived the slaughter. But not only had he survived, but he also became a heaven-defying prodigy. In the corner of her mind, she doubted that Abras used the cosmic stream somehow to survive and cultivate. Victoria remembered Abras as a naive, weak and love-stricken boy from a group who kept the cosmic stream for themselves instead of using it for the betterment of this world. However, Ghost was the exact opposite of Abras. That was the reason Victoria even considered meeting Ghost and thought about marrying him. He was the perfect suitor and the prince for Wuxia. He was brutal, cold, and merciless to his enemies. Abras. Edith took a step back. She recalled everything Victoria told about the sanctuary and what the Thusians did to the people who converted the cosmic stream. If Edith was right, Abras was the young man Victoria pretended to be in love with and killed in the end. A necessary action. That's how Victoria justified her actions. Edith was still unclear about how she felt about what Thusians did to the sanctuary. But at least they used cosmic energy to get rid of the plague that swept across Wuxia. If not for the cosmic stream, her parents would have died. For that, Edith felt eternally grateful to Victoria and King Maxim. "You survived," Victoria said. Despite the startling truth, Victoria didn't shiver in fear or show any emotion except a slight surprise in her eyes. Although she didn't know how Abras survived, she couldn't let him live. Otherwise, he might expose the cosmic stream's existence to the outside world. "What now, Abras? You want to kill me?" asked Victoria. Granted, Ghost was strong, but she was stronger. She had cosmic energy coursing through her veins. Thinking that she had to kill him again, she almost felt pity for him. It seemed like fate really wanted her to kill Abras. The least she could do for him was end his life painlessly. This time, she didn't have to betray him but look him in the eyes and end his life personally. "Kill you? Haha." To her surprise, Ghost burst into devilish laughter. He threw the dagger aside. "If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it a long time ago." "No, no, no." Michael shook his head. "You took something from me. Now I am going to take everything from you." His words sounded awfully murderous. Even from a distance, Edith could feel the killing intent. On the other hand, Victoria creased her brows. She stepped forward as sparkling blue energy formed a sword in her hand. The sword made of pure cosmic energy. There was no metal or weapon that could withstand the cosmic energy. She had slain hundreds of enemies using the sword, and it was time to put Abras to rest. "To do that, you have to be alive," Victoria scorned. She was about to dash forward when Michael surprised her by dashing toward Edith. Victoria didn't expect Michael to target Edith because Edith had done nothing to him. "Arg!" Edith didn't react in time. His speed caught Edith off guard. Without giving both the girls any time to react, Michael stabbed Edith in the neck with a needle. "Get away from her." Victoria raised the sword to cut down Abras. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed, but suddenly Edith collapsed to the ground, screaming in agony. "What did you do?" Victoria's instincts told her to stop. Edith rolled on the ground. Her scream echoed through the floating mountain. Michael laughed. Victoria rushed toward Edith. When she squatted beside Edith, Michael snapped his finger. To Victoria's surprise, Edith stopped screaming. Michael circled around him like a predator stalking its prey. It took a great effort for Michael not to slaughter Victoria right here and then. Victoria helped Edith up. Edith's face was completely pale. A second again, she felt an excruciating pain in every corner of her body. It was like she was being stabbed with hundreds of nails at the same time. But the pain disappeared as soon as Michael snapped his finger. Michael finally finished a full circle around them. "This is just a glimpse of what I am going to do to you and all your loved ones, Lila," said Michael. Victoria clenched her fist. She wanted to cut Abras into pieces. She would have given him a painless death, but now she wanted to make him suffer. "I want you to see everyone you care about suffer. Brick by brick, one by one, I will dismantle your beloved Wuxia in front of your eyes. I will raze everything you built to the ground." Michael slowly said these words. "You will beg me to kill you and your suffering. But I won't grant you any mercy. I will kill your family slowly and painfully. Just like your people did to mine." "Leave her out of this," Victoria growled. Michael tilted his head, staring at Edith for a moment. He then slowly walked toward Victoria. He came close to the point Victoria could feel his hot breath on her. "Why?" whispered Michael. "She had done nothing to you." "She's innocent," Victoria snarled. She wanted to punch him in the chest, crushing his heart. However, she was afraid that would kill Edith. And she was right. Michael injected Edith with the blood tonic. If he wished, he could end Edith's life with a single snap of his finger. Michael didn't hide this. He let both of them know what he had done to Edith. I put something of my own inside her. All I need is to snap my fingers to end your friend's little life. Victoria gritted her teeth as Michael coldly smiled. Or if I wanted, I could enjoy some screaming music. Michael simply moved his brow as Edith collapsed to the ground once again, screaming and rolling in pain. Finally, Victoria couldn't see her friend suffer. She clenched the cosmic sword tighter. She wanted to cut down Abras. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net tsk. Michael shook his head. Patience, Lila. Do you think I only hold your friend's life in my hand? How's Her Highness, Valeria? Victoria's mind went blank. Abras, Victoria growled like a wounded animal. Her eyes turned blood red in anger. You coward. Release my friend and settle this like a man, said Victoria. But Michael laughed. I'm not a man. I am the fucking consequences of your actions. Michael glanced at Edith. He willed the system to shut down the nanites in her body. As a result, Edith's pain disappeared. You have no idea what we are capable of, Abras. I destroyed your home once. It won't take me long to do it again. Michael heard Victoria while he was walking away from Victoria. He was afraid he would lose control and slaughter Victoria right on this floating mountain. He didn't want that. As he explained, he wanted Victoria to suffer. Although killing Victoria was as easy as snapping his finger, he had other plans for her. I will destroy Bradford and everyone in it. Then you better pray you can protect your precious cosmic stream from all the great 8 clans in the Sky Hall. Because the moment you raise a finger against me, I will expose your dirty little secret. Michael turned around with a devilish grin. Then I will make your friend and your mother scream to death. That be just a glimpse. Michael slowly ascended to the sky. Now go tell your entire kingdom death is coming. Michael's figure disappeared from Victoria's sight. Silence fell over them. Edith shivered in fear. When she looked into Victoria's eyes, she saw a sign of dread for the first time. Michael may have bluffed about poisoning Valeria. But the moment he leaves Amazaroth, he plans to order Azazel to inject Valeria with the blood tonic. It'd be difficult, but using the spiders and drones, it wasn't an impossible task either. Azazel was more than enough to finish the task. Moreover, Michael's threat to expose the cosmic stream rendered Victoria helpless. Once the cosmic stream's existence gets out, they would be at war with not just kingdoms but with the great 8 clans and the Sky Hall itself. Unfortunately, they were still not strong enough to face the Sky Hall. Vicky, what are we going to do now? Asked Edith. She was pretty shaken up by Michael's threat. She lived long enough to tell he wasn't bluffing. Every word that came out of his mouth sounded like a promise. We can do only one thing. Victoria took a deep breath. Prepare for the war, said Victoria. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 671. Goodbye Mazeroth. Leaving Victoria and Edith behind, Michael returned to his room using the runic teleportation. He saw Gaia, Eladir, and Nightmare waiting for him in the room. Where were you? Asked Gaia. Judging by the look in her eyes, she was worried sick. We are leaving. Michael's words surprised the trio. What? Something happened? Asked Eladir. I've been made, Michael sighed. You met Wulfric, didn't you? To Michael's surprise, Eladir didn't look as surprised as Gaia and Nightmare. Michael nodded. Wait. If you're telling me the headmaster recognized you as the Dark Lord, then why did he leave you alone? Asked Nightmare. I don't know why. But we cannot stay here any longer. Michael was adamant about the decision. It was too much of a risk to stay in Mazeroth any longer. Gaia remained silent. They all turned their gazes toward her, wanting to know her thoughts. And I also met Victoria. Before Gaia could open her mouth, Michael said. Our Golden Valley Victoria? Asked Nightmare. Michael shook his head. No. The Princess of Thusia. The bitch who put a sword through my heart and burned my sanctuary to the ground, Victoria Barnes? Michael growled. Did she know you are Abras? Finally, Gaia opened her mouth to question Michael. Nodded Michael. Then let's get the fuck out of here, Gaia agreed with Michael. Instead of staying in Mazeroth and doing nothing, she preferred to get out of the Ukulun realm and venture into the treacherous ocean. That way she could find the wise dragon and inquire about her mother. On the other hand, she knew Michael could get stronger by killing the mutated beings in the place. I am up for it. I hate this place anyways. Eladir agreed to leave Amazaroth without a second thought. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. Com to experience faster update speed. thanks to Professor Lane, you have permission to leave M. Azeroth. But what about her? Nightmare looked at Gaia. She's a professor. It would raise some eyebrows if she disappeared suddenly. Nightmare was right. Taking Gaia would be suspicious for sure. They might even look for Professor Steinmeier. But leaving Gaia behind the enemy lines, especially after knowing his identity had been exposed, Michael had no other choice. Moreover, bringing Gaia and Nightmare to the treacherous ocean would multiply his experience gain. To take on Thusia, he needed to be at his strongest. Be that as it may, if push comes to shove, we can at least fight the Sky Hall on our terms. Staying in their territory is not the right move. I agree with him. We have to get out of here. But I have to ask you again, are you sure Wulfric recognized you? Asked Eladir. Do you know why I like winter? It's the perfect balance of light and darkness, as all things should be. Don't you agree? Michael repeated Wulfric's words. That was his words to me. He knows about me. And I found a surveillance spell around me. Someone was watching me all this time. Gaia and Eladir raised their brows. They were completely taken aback by the surprise. He also said that even the strongest blizzards start with a single snowflake. Just like a long blood feud or lifelong friendship start with a single decision. Now connect everything and tell me I am wrong, asked Michael. The longer we stay here, the more we are putting ourselves in. So come on. Michael was about to take a step toward the center of the room where Eladir put the teleportation array when he heard someone knocking on the door. Who's there? Asked Nightmare. You and Eladir. Michael looked at Gaia and Eladir. Get out of here, Michael whispered. Without wasting time arguing, Gaia and Eladir stepped onto the array. Standing atop the carpet, Eladir just waved his hand. The floor suddenly trembled as a golden light enveloped the two of them. It's Ruby, Michael heard Ruby's voice. Give me a minute, said Michael, waiting for Gaia and Eladir to disappear. A golden light flashed across the room. The light quickly disappeared along with Gaia and Eladir, leaving Michael and Nightmare behind. Michael heaved a sigh of relief. Before leaving M. Azeroth for good, he wanted to say goodbye to Ruby. Even though he only knew Ruby for a few days, she was nothing but a good friend to him. He was still determining when or if he would meet Ruby again. So Michael wanted to talk to Ruby one last time. Of course, Michael wouldn't say he was leaving Mazeroth. But when Michael opened his door, he was startled. His eyes of darkness revealed Ruby's real face. The one Michael saw standing outside was Rowena. There was no doubt in his mind. He saw her portraits in Winston Manor too many times to be mistaken. Michael was speechless. He had no idea he was being a good friend to Rowena Winston, the holy freaking maiden of the Sky Hall. Even with the upgraded environmental scanning, he was unable to sense her cultivation stage before opening the door. Now that he had seen her with his eyes, he was able to see a cultivation stage, fusion stage level 4. The gentle smile on Ruby's face faded away. She sensed an energy fluctuation in the room as though someone had teleported away. Furthermore, Ghost looked agitated. To Michael's surprise, Ruby sighed and stepped into his room. Unlike everyone in Mazeroth, Rowena knew Professor Steinmeier was not what she claimed to be. Rowena had seen through her disguise the moment she saw her with Ghost in Lane's office. The only reason Rowena didn't throw her in prison was that she was with Ghost and seemed to care about him. Rowena did not want to repay the kindness Ghost showed her family by hurting his close one. Regardless, she would have asked the one pretending to be Steinmeier to leave Mazeroth and never return. Connecting Ghost's agitated face with the energy distortion in the room, Rowena guessed the fake professor might have left Mazeroth. The question was, how did she leave Mazeroth? This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. Although Michael learned Ruby's real identity, he didn't act weird. Instead, he pretended to know nothing about her. I thought you went to the arena, said Michael. I was there. But I had a feeling you might be in trouble, said Rowena. To be honest, it wasn't a lie. Rowena really did feel Ghost was in trouble when she was in the arena. It was the same time as Wulfric met him. After hearing some students speak about Wulfric's surprise visit to the House of Alchemists, Rowena really thought Wulfric had caught Ghost helping the one who was pretending to be a professor. If that was the case, Rowena would have used her status as the Holy Maiden to help him and settle her debts to the Ghost once and for all. As far as she was concerned, Ghost saved 4 people in her family: Andrews, Sabrina, her mother, and her father. That was 4 lives. So Rowena owed Ghost 4 times. By saving Ghost with the cold flames, she repaid him once. By not exposing Professor Steinmeier and thus getting Ghost into trouble, she repaid him for the 2nd time. In other words, she owes him twice. You felt wrong. I am doing fine, said Michael. He noticed Rowena slowly walking toward the center of the room where Eladir created the teleportation array. His heartbeat slowly increased. Alerting Rowena was equal to alerting the entire Sky Hall. Suppose Rowena knew about his identity too, like Wulfric, he was good as royally screwed. At that time he would have no choice but to put Plan F into action. Is that so? Rowena stood where Eladir and Gaia were a moment ago. Nightmare stared at Rowena without blinking an eye. Unlike Michael, Nightmare didn't know Ruby was Rowena. But Nightmare was not stupid either. The way Rowena looked around the room and the way she tapped the floor irked him. Something was definitely wrong, Nightmare knew it. It seems right, said Rowena. She also stepped away from the array. Anyways, are you coming to the arena? Asked Rowena. I will try. You have something to do? Michael smiled. Although Michael felt like she sensed the array, she didn't recognize him as the Dark Lord. Otherwise, she would have reacted differently unless she has put together another trap. Either way, Michael didn't want to stay in Mazeroth anymore. Too many risks. Getting no response from Ghost, Rowena understood he had something personal to deal with. She respected that. Therefore, she made her way out of the room. I will see you soon then, Rowena said after stepping out of his room. She nodded at Michael. After giving him a gentle smile, she walked away. Phew, Michael deeply exhaled. Without wasting time, Michael shut the door. He grabbed Nightmare and walked toward the array. The moment we get out, destroy the array without a trace, Michael ordered the system. He looked at his room and couldn't help feeling a bit of sorrow. If he was a normal guy, he could have cherished this Mazeroth life like the others have. Being the Dark Lord caused him to lose so many things in life. The only way to fix everything was to destroy the Sky Hall once and for all. Now that he had spent some time with Rowena, going against her made his heart heavy. She may have pretended to be Ruby, but his instincts told him she didn't have any ill intention toward him. She was genuine. Besides, she could have left him to die in Lane's office. Instead, she saved him. Michael simply couldn't understand Rowena. But, for now, understanding Rowena wasn't on his to-do list. Where are we going? Asked Nightmare. To the treacherous ocean, said Michael. That was just a pit stop before finally venturing into his nemesis homeland, Thusia. It was time for the Thusians to pay for what they did to him. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 672, Returning to the Treacherous Ocean. After leaving Mazeroth, they all arrived at the Dark Forest. Michael ordered Eladir to stay in the Dark Forest, watching over the sect and everything. He then immediately departed from the Dark Forest to the Treacherous Ocean with Gaia and Nightmare. He left Vidora in Eladir's care. Vidora needed some ancient knowledge and Eladir was the best person to teach. The last time Michael went to the Treacherous Ocean, he was with Layla. The Momirs flashed across his mind. Everything started smoothly with Layla, and the shit hit the fan at the end due to Layla's impulse to harness the first energy. Moreover, the system was offline at that time, it restricted Michael's ability. This time he was filled with anger, motivation, and with Gaia and Nightmare. It took them a day to reach the outskirts of the Rainbow Island where Layla lived. Michael wanted to go visit her and see how her spirit child was doing. However, Michael chose not to. The entire point of why Michael cut his ties with Layla and the kid was to keep them as far as possible from him. Otherwise, if one day his secret were exposed, they would be spared from the backlash. From the Rainbow Island, it took them another day to reach the Treacherous Ocean. Even in the middle of the day, the Treacherous Ocean looked dark and gloomy as night. The winter had no effect on the domain. It looked just as he remembered last time. The entire region of the sea was shrouded in a dark mist and stormy clouds. The sound of thunderclaps reverberated the entire sea while violet streaks of lightning kept lighting the gloomy clouds. Michael felt his power growing within him due to all the darkness around him. He floated in the sky for a moment. Where do we find this wise dragon? Asked Nightmare. Let me see my map. Gaia pretended to open up a map. Oh, there is no map. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Nightmare rolled his eyes. You are a dragon. I expect you to sense him or whatever, said Gaia. Michael remained silent. He was in the process of controlling his anger. Ever since he met Victoria, he couldn't achieve peace of mind. Let's go, said Michael before moving forward. He could distract his mind by killing the mutated beings in the Treacherous Ocean. Take the perception pills, Michael ordered Gaia and Nightmare. With a nod, Gaia flicked her wrist. A couple of sparkling blue pills appeared in her palm. She threw one into her mouth and offered the other one to Nightmare. Although Nightmare had a special vision to see his environment, he swallowed the pill just to be safe. The more they flew forward, the louder the thunderclaps sounded. It was as though they were entered into a raging storm. Michael slowly descended toward the island covered in the mist. Unlike before, Michael was able to see everything around him despite the thick mist. He immediately took out the drones and sent them flying in every direction to recon the place. When Michael visited the treacherous ocean previously, he had the death aura of Nightmare, hiding his presence from the beings that inhabited the treacherous ocean. Considering Nightmare was well and healthy, he didn't have any aura to hide his presence. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel Next. To experience faster update speed. As a result, Michael sensed several hostile beings rushing toward him from every direction. Nightmare and Gaia didn't plan to get caught off guard. They both sensed the activity around them using their own senses. Leave it to me. Nightmare leaped into the air from Gaia's shoulder. His size grew rapidly until he reached his full size. Even though Nightmare still hadn't reached his full size, he was still a terrifying 90 feet long dragon. With the dark horns growing out of his head, Nightmare looked like a demonoid dragon. With a single flap of his large wings, Nightmare pushed back the mist covering them. The mutated beings hiding within the mist got exposed by Nightmare's action. At that moment, Michael and Gaia saw several creatures. Most of them seemed humanoid with typical features like 2 hands and 2 legs. But all of them were shriveled and radiated a strong putrid stench. These creatures were once humans, elves, and orcs who ventured into the treacherous ocean to unmask the mystery behind the dragon clan's disappearance. But they lost their lives and were consumed by the mist. Finally, they were turned into these mutated beings that mindlessly attacked any living being that stepped onto the island. Nightmare breathed fire on them mercilessly, turning them into nothing but ashes. Michael heard the system notifications continually ringing in his head. The number of experience points rapidly increased to the point he had received almost 80,000. Finally, after turning every mutated being to ashes, Nightmare returned to his previous size and landed on Gaia's shoulder. Michael and Gaia continued to venture deeper and deeper into the treacherous ocean. Nightmare used his dragon breath to burn them to a crisp every time they got swarmed with mutated beings. "Why don't you stretch your muscles a bit?" asked Gaia. "It'd be a good way to warm up before the big war with Wuxia. If you're trying to distract my mind off Wuxia, it's not working," said Michael. "Well, I have to try. Look, we both are in a kind of a pickle here. You want Wuxia destroyed and I want my mother found. Both are not the same, Gaia. Your mother is alive. But everyone I grew up with is not." Gaia halted her steps. She grabbed Michael by his shoulder before turning him to look him in the eyes. Michael may not have said a word or seemed calm as usual, but Gaia knew his mind was seething with anger. She didn't blame him. She doubted she could have let Victoria live after meeting her again if she was in his shoes. "I won't say giving a warning about you are coming is a smart move. You wanted them to live in fear, so be it. But get your head in the game. We are in one of the most dangerous places in this world. Just like you always say, you won't see things clearly if you're blinded with anger." Michael knew she was right, at least about him being angry. "I want them to be at their strongest when I crush them. Only by then they will feel helpless, desperate and beg me to forgive them. Let them prepare. Let them get every ally they have to their side," Michael growled. His eyes glimmered with killing intent. She had never seen Michael like this before. "Human," Gaia smiled, cupping his face gently. This chapter upload first at Novel Bin. Net. We will end them together. If it makes you feel better, I already have a plan in my mind for Thuja's total annihilation. You do? Nightmare tilted his head. Of course I do. Let's walk and talk. With Michael and Nightmare by her side, she almost forgot she was in the treacherous ocean. Instead, she treated this place like a park. As Gaia said, she put her hand around Michael's shoulder and moved forward. "The Thujans destroyed 2 kingdoms and are currently at war with 3. The enemies of my enemy are my friends, right? So we rally them against the Thujans. With your endless supply of potions and the combined army, we will destroy Thujia brick by brick just the way you like it. Why can't we just create a plague and spread it throughout the Thusian army and kill them single-handedly?" "He is not a lunatic, lizard. You cannot control the plague once it starts to spread. The people who live in Thujia did nothing to him. We cannot become the thing the Sky Hall and the Guardians say we will," Michael nodded. But he knew that wasn't the only reason he avoided spreading a plague. The Thujans were in possession of a divine power source that was far beyond any mortal's comprehension. If Michael spread the plague, Maxim Barnes would use the cosmic stream to cure the plague. It would not only cure the army but also power them up. It would be such a pity for the cosmic stream to be used in mortals. Instead, Michael wanted it for himself and everyone in the Order. Once he and his order absorbed the cosmic energy with the system's help, they would have the edge they desperately need. Plus, fighting an army powered by cosmic energy might force him to use darkness, which might expose his secret to the outside world. Gaia explained all her plans in greater detail while moving forward. Talking about war, destruction and killing took Gaia's mind off of worrying about her mother. Continuing onwards, they suffered constant attacks from the mutated beings. With each wave of the attack, the number of hostiles that attacked them increased significantly. They moved steadily through the fog for 7 continuous hours before passing through the region of fog and reaching the outskirts of the treacherous ocean. The mist became so thick that they could barely see anything. Thanks to Michael's X-ray vision, he was able to locate the multiple illusion arrays around him. Last time, the arrays made him hallucinate Spectre, which wasn't a great experience for Michael. Lightning bolts crackled around Michael's hands. He sent several bolts in all directions, destroying the source point of the illusion arrays. In a few seconds he destroyed all the arrays around them. When Eve knows we are going to war with Wuxia, that crazy girl would be the first one to rush to the battlefield. Suddenly Gaia thought about Eve. Speaking of Eve, Michael remembered the artifact that could enable him to break curses, a legendary skill. Eventually they felt a bit exhausted and wanted to take some rest. The place was desolate and dangerous, with no trees or caves to take shelter. But he didn't need anything when he had the system. He just bought a couple of comfy chairs from the system and lit a campfire to warm their bodies. Fortunately, the mutated beings temporarily stopped attacking, probably because there were no mutated beings in this part of the treacherous ocean. Michael leaned back on his chair. He took a quick look at his status. Nightmare's kills gave him nearly 200,000 experience points. As a result, he reached fusion stage level 9. Half immortal stage, here I come, Michael thought in his mind. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. Chapter 673. Using the Soul Eater again. Only Nightmare was able to sleep on Gaia's lap, curling himself into a ball. They two were deep in thought. For Gaia it was her mother. For Michael it was Victoria and everything the Thusians did to him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the burning sanctuary. He heard his friends scream only to get slaughtered by the Thusian soldiers. Those soldiers didn't show any mercy, not even to the little ones. In Michael's mind, the elders weren't blameless either. They had a divine power source for centuries, yet they didn't even bother to use it. The cosmic stream remained useless in the sanctuary. Michael decided long ago not to make the same mistakes the elders did. The moment he destroyed Wuxia, he would absorb the cosmic stream, or if he couldn't, he would destroy it so no one could use it in the future. Do you have any clues about finding this wise dragon? Gaia leaned forward. The last time you came here, did you see any pathways, hidden entrances, or any signs of a dragon? She asked. My drones are searching this place as we speak. If a dragon is living here, we will find it, said Michael. You better find a cure for my mother. I don't want her to suck my blood when I am asleep, Gaia chuckled. I am telling you again, the cure will only get rid of a vampire's bloodlust and weakness for sunlight. Their abilities like immunity to magic attacks, speed, and strength will stay the same, so she will be like us? Gaia asked after giving Michael's words a little thought. Let's find another vampire and try that cure first on him. Then we can move on to your mother. We should definitely do that. They spent the following minutes discussing Eve, Wuxia, and Adelia. Then, their conversation slowly moved toward the Blood Prince. To be honest, Michael didn't have a solid plan to deal with the Blood Prince. First, he needed to gather more information about the Blood Prince. It was a pity he left Mazeroth. Professor Lane and Gilrine seemed to have a lot of knowledge about one. Fortunately, they had Lord information to turn to. As they were conversing, the ground suddenly trembled in a rhythm as though something huge was stepping toward them. Michael immediately rose from his chair. He sensed a soul-refining stage being appear in the environmental scanning. Judging by the tremor, Michael knew whatever that's coming their way must be a colossal-sized monster. Michael, what the hell is happening? Gaia held Nightmare in one hand and tried to balance herself. They quickly shot into the air. When they reached the sky, they were stunned by what they saw. A colossal skeleton was on its way toward them. It was a dragon, not just any dragon, a skeleton dragon. With each step the dragon took, the ground trembled. The dragon had an overall length of 400 feet, a wingspan of 350 feet, and a height of almost 80 feet. This chapter upload first at Novel.bin.net. If you want to read more chapters, please visit Novel.next.com to experience faster update speed compared to this skeletal dragon. Nightmare was a puppy. The dragon moved his head left and right as though it was searching for something. Michael looked into the two holes where the eyes should have been and saw no light of life. He never expected to encounter a mutated dragon this early in the journey. Damn, it'd be a pity to smash this dragon to pieces. We could sell it for millions, Gaia sighed. Despite the dragon's colossal size, it was only a soul refining stage level 4 beast. With her soul refining stage level 6 cultivation, she could smash into pieces. Of course, she would have a difficult time defeating it, but Gaia was absolutely positive she could beat the dragon. Michael shared the same thought as Gaia. In the aqua auction, Layla bought a full dragon skeleton for a whopping 4 billion gold coins. Since this skeleton was at the soul refining stage level 4, Michael could at least get 1 billion, auctioning the dragon. But first, he must defeat the dragon without smashing it into pieces. Luckily for Michael, unlike undead, these mutated beings had souls. Their souls were corrupted and twisted to the point there was no fix for their souls. Corrupted or not, they had souls. If they had souls, Michael could use Soul Eater to preserve their physical bodies. In this case, he could kill the dragon without destroying its body. Thanks to Michael's recent upgrade spree, the Soul Eater could devour the soul of any cultivator under the fusion stage. Some weak-willed enemy souls could be devoured immediately. The others who had strong resolve and powerful souls required Michael to weaken them before devouring their souls. The spell was meant to be used when Michael was in his complete Lucifer form, where the cloud of darkness and death range would weaken an enemy's resolve. But even though Michael was in the treacherous ocean, he still didn't use his Lucifer persona. What if someone was watching him? According to the system, there were no more surveillance spells around him. Still, Michael wanted to be safe rather than sorry. The skeleton dragon slowly approached them. Gaia turned her head to the side to see Michael looking at the dragon nonchalantly. He cracked his neck. "Stay here," said Michael. Just a thought about casting the lightning dash spell resulted in himself being surrounded by golden lightning bolts. They danced around his body. Gay heard the low-pitched sound of crackling lightning bolts around him. In a blink of an eye, he dashed toward the dragon, leaving a trail of golden streaks. Sensing Michael's presence, the dragon locked its gaze on Michael. Its thunderous roar echoed through the treacherous ocean. When Michael reached closer, the dragon opened its mouth to swallow him. Michael looked tiny in front of its jaw. Wind blast. Michael cast the wind blast to disorient the dragon for a moment. The blast of wind created a deafening boom sound when it collided with the dragon's head. The dragon jerked its head to the side due to the wind blast's force. Michael punched the dragon right between the two holes in its head without giving the dragon any time to react. Several cracks formed in the dragon's head despite Michael suppressing his strength. From afar, Gaia saw the dragon stumbling. Michael didn't stop with one punch. He flew to the side and punched the dragon in the jaw. His punch created a thunderous shockwave. He continued to rain down punch after punch. Cracked skeleton is better than no skeleton, right? Gaia said to herself. Any oblivious man could tell Michael was using the dragon as a punching bag to vent his anger. It was indeed a good outlet for the anger raging within him. The dragon's colossal size had become its ultimate bane. It couldn't keep up with Michael's speed. A normal fusion stage cultivator would have fought the dragon in a bloody battle, using all their strength and spells. But even a prodigy like Layla couldn't have fought like Michael. He bullied the dragon. The darkness in the treacherous ocean, coupled with his anger, boosted his power to the point he almost destroyed the dragon's head with just punches alone. Finally, the dragon's roar sounded weak. It exhausted its strength trying to bite Michael. When the dragon was at its weakness, Michael landed on its head. He stared into its eyes, feeling the corrupted soul residing within. The dragon started to shake its head left and right frantically. It tried to throw Michael away. But Michael held onto its head, continuing to stare into the dragon's eyes. The dragon roared, looking at the sky. Seeing the dragon violently shaking its head, Gaia threw Nightmare into the air. This chapter upload first at Novelbin. Net, wake up, damn lizard, she dashed toward Michael. Meanwhile, Nightmare woke up in shock. Despite the dragon's roar and all the commotion, Nightmare was sleeping peacefully. When Gaia threw him in the air, he was forced to wake up. He was taken aback by surprise. A huge skeletal dragon was wiggling its body. When Nightmare looked closer, he saw Michael standing atop its head. Now Gaia joined the fight. She punched the dragon in the side of its face. She went under the dragon's chin and grabbed the bones using all her might. As a result, the dragon's wriggling slowed down. Michael was able to feel the corrupted soul once again. Still, the corrupted soul fought against Michael's soul-eating stare. Michael didn't give up. He focused more on devouring the soul more. He elbowed the dragon on the head to weaken the dragon further. Finally, a grayish smoke slowly rose within the two dark holes. It was the corrupted soul. Soul transferring initiated. The dragon roared. Its roar was much weaker than earlier. Michael tightened his grasp and opened his mouth, rapidly devouring the soul. The white smoke shot straight into Michael's mouth. Eventually, the smoke stopped and the dragon collapsed to the ground, moving no more. Once the dragon hit the ground, it created a tremor several times stronger than a typical earthquake. Additionally, it created a thick cloud of dust around the dragon. Ding! Congrats to the host for killing a soul refining stage level 4 mutated dragon. The reward is 300,000 experience points as well as 20,000 badass points. The Soul Eater has absorbed the soul of the mutated dragon. The host has received 100,000 experience points. In total, Michael received 400,000 experience points. Compared to Wilcast's soul, he received 5 times the experience points by devouring the skeletal dragon's soul. It was several times eviler and more corrupt than Wilca's. Hence, the increase in experience points. Killing the dragon was the easy part. Now the real trouble began when Michael thought about transporting the skeleton from the treacherous ocean to Ara where he could auction it in the Aqua Palace. I feel creeped out when you use that spell, Michael heard Gaia's voice behind him. You've only seen me using it once, said Michael, staring at the dragon from above. You have a plan to move that thing? Nightmare came to their side. System. Still trying to learn how to transport the skeleton, Michael turned to the system. The skeleton is too big to teleport. The host can pay 100,000 badass points to dismantle the skeleton. Another 100,000 for teleporting the bones to a choice of your base of operation. And finally, another 100,000 badass points for assembling the skeleton. So a total of 300,000 badass points? Michael was surprised by the system because the system quoted an amount way less than he had actually imagined. So Michael quickly agreed. Dismantle and teleport it to the dark forest. I will assemble it later. The novel will be updated first on this website. Come back and continue reading tomorrow, everyone. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.